Chapter 2907. Suppression Buzz. Endless sword essence burst out from Jian Wushuang's body, and the Blood Mountain sword appeared in his hand. He casually waved his sword, and in an instant, the majestic sword shadow, together with the great domain of the nine-universe Blood Light River, crazily pressed down on Elder Qin. What? Elder Qin turned pale with fright. She had never expected that Jian Yi would dare to attack her directly in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's lair. This sudden attack was completely beyond her imagination. However, she was a genuine immortal saint, so her reaction speed was extremely fast. She immediately used many protective measures to try to block Jian Wushuang's sword. However, the power of Jian Wushuang's attack was too terrifying. It was beyond his imagination. Splash! The sword shadow passed by, but Elder Qin was not damaged at all. However, the many protective measures on her body had been completely shattered by the sword light. He could have killed me with that attack, but he didn't hurt me at all. He wanted to capture me alive. Elder Qin instantly understood. However, Jian Wushuang had already attacked again. He only pointed his finger at a distance, and the power of the space-time rule burst out instantly. Heaven-fixing skill. This move had little effect on the immortal saint when Jian Wushuang had not made a breakthrough in his comprehension of the space-time rule. However, now that his comprehension of the space-time rule had reached the immortal saint level, the power of this move would be much stronger. Even if Elder Qin was an immortal saint, he could not resist this move. Jian Wushuang immediately stepped forward. Stop! Chu Yong finally reacted and shouted. At the same time, his terrifying strength burst out. He held a red long spear in one hand. The long spear pierced through the void and formed a huge pillar of fire, which rushed toward Jian Wushuang. Get lost! Jian Wushuang did not even bother to look at Chu Yong. Instead, he slashed out with his sword and instantly activated the power of the boundless sword tree in his body to the maximum. A huge sword light swept out. The sword light, with the majestic power of the rule, hit the fire pillar head-on. The fire pillar was extinguished instantly, and Chu Yong was sent flying at the first moment. He was in an extremely sorry state. Jian Wushuang was not hindered at all. He appeared in front of Elder Qin and swung his Blood Mountain sword again. This time, he did not use his swordsmanship, but the suppressive power of the Blood Mountain sword. The Blood Mountain sword could kill and suppress enemies. It was just that Jian Wushuang rarely used this suppressive skill before. But now, buzz, buzz. The Blood Mountain sword turned into a towering giant mountain, and a huge whirlpool appeared at the bottom of the mountain. The whirlpool crazily swallowed everything. First, under Jian Wushuang's guidance, it directly swallowed Elder Qin, and then the Blood Mountain sword turned into a divine sword again. It returned to Jian Wushuang's hand. It was too fast. Jian Wushuang moved too fast. In just a moment he sent Chu Yong flying and then suppressed Elder Qin. After doing all this, he looked around. What he was looking at was naturally the manor behind him. In the attic of the manor, Lung Rushuang had also come to the window. Jian Wushuang, Lung Rushuang's eyes were extremely complicated. I'm sorry. Jian Wushuang and Lung Rushuang looked at each other, but his figure directly rushed toward the void to the side. Jian Yi, how dare you? A loud shout suddenly sounded in heaven and earth. It was so loud that it shook the entire Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Chu Yong was the one who shouted. He had seen Jian Wushuang suppress Elder Qin in front of him, and it was in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was completely shaken. A large number of figures flew up and rushed in the direction of the pavilion. Long Xingzi, the pavilion master of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, rushed over at once. At the same time, a few hidden experts of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion also rushed over. In the blink of an eye, 3 immortal saints arrived in front of Jian Wushuang. Including Chu Yong, there were 4 of them. In addition, there were many powerful disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, such as the invincible Divine Master, who was rarely seen in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. However, there were several in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, and they had surrounded Jian Wushuang in just a moment. Of course, this was also because Jian Wushuang did not make a move. Otherwise, it would not be so easy for him to be alone. Chu Yong, what happened? Where is Elder Qin? Long Xingzi stared at Chu Yong with a gloomy face. Pavilion Master, Elder Qin has been suppressed by this Jian Yi, Chu Yong said in a low voice. What? Long Xingzi was shocked, but then he flew into a rage. He was not the only one. The other two immortal saints and the disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion were all furious. This was the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. An outsider, Jin Yi, had suppressed an immortal saint-level elder of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's lair. He was going to fight with the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Jian Yi, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion respects your strength and identity. We welcome you and treat you with the utmost care, but now you have suppressed Elder Qin of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. You are too arrogant. Long Xingzi's voice was cold. Release Elder Qin quickly and hand over 1,000,000 sacred elixirs to apologize to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, or else. Or else what? Jian Wushuang stood alone, facing the countless experts of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion without any fear. Long Xingzi's face changed. Even the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion did not dare to underestimate Jian Wushuang's strength. Therefore, they did not want to offend him unless it was necessary. But now, Jian Yi, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion has no enmity with you. So what do you want to do today? Long Xingzi shouted in a low voice. My goal is simple. I want to know where young Phoenix is going and why she is going there. Besides, when the Dragon Phoenix ranking was released, you placed her name at 3rd place. In other words, her contribution to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is ranked in the top 3 among all the predecessors of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. She is only second to the founder of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, Ancient Sage, and the 3rd Pavilion Master. However, what contribution did she make to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion that you would place her in 3rd place? I want to know everything. As long as I know everything, I will let Elder Qin out and guarantee that she won't be hurt. But if you don't tell me, then don't blame me for being rude. Jian Wushuang's expression was solemn and extremely cold. Chapter 2908, Supreme Emotion Valley. Jian Yi, are you threatening the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion? Long Xingzi shouted. Yes, I am, Jian Wushuang admitted directly. He was not afraid of falling out with the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Even when he came to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, he was already prepared to completely fall out with it. It was because of this that he waited until his strength had once again greatly improved and he had sufficient confidence before he came to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion to pay a visit. To be so impudent in my Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and even shamelessly threaten my Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, aren't you worried that you won't be able to leave alive today? Long Xingzi said. He, Pavilion Master of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, you seem to be called Long Xingzi, right? When the Dragon Phoenix ranking was first opened, I carefully looked at it. Your name is on it and you are able to be listed on the Dragon Phoenix ranking. It seems that your methods are still impatient. At the very least, you have made a lot of contributions to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Unfortunately, you have underestimated me. Since I dared to suppress your elders in your Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, I naturally have absolute confidence that I will be able to escape unscathed. If you don't believe me, you can try later, but I won't show any mercy. As for the final result, I can still leave calmly. As for you, I guarantee that more than half of the experts of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, including many disciples, will die. But, Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. There was absolute confidence between his brows. Long Xingzi could also see this confidence. However, he could not help frowning. Where did Jian Yi get such confidence from? Although Long Xingzi was full of doubts about Jian Wushuang's words, he did not dare to be careless. After all, this was the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. There were many disciples here, and each of them was a true god's favored son. Each death was enough to make the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's heart ache. If they could not control the battle here, the consequences would be unimaginable. Long Xingzi was hesitating. But at this time, Elder Qin, who Jian Wushuang had suppressed in the Blood Mountain Sword, had already broken free from the time-space stagnation. As soon as she broke free, she knew that she had been suppressed. And then she heard the conversation between Jian Wushuang and Long Xingzi in the Blood Mountain Sword. Now she directly shouted, Jian Yi, Don't you want to know about Lung Er? They'll tell you. Jian Wushuang's heart moved, and his consciousness quickly covered the Blood Mountain sword. Tell me, where is she going? Jian Wushuang asked. Humph, Lung Er is going to Supreme Emotion Valley, Elder Qin answered. Supreme Emotion Valley? Jian Wushuang frowned. I'm afraid you've never heard of this name, right? Elder Qin sneered. Let me tell you, the Supreme Emotion Valley is a sect, and it comes from the vast third heaven. Even in the third heaven, in the core territory of the absolute beginning divine realm, the Supreme Emotion Valley is extremely powerful. A top sect in the third heaven? Jian Wushuang was stunned. The third heaven was the core of the absolute beginning divine realm. The 3 saint realms, the 4 divine clans, and the octagonal heaven sect were the top sects in that territory. The Supreme Emotion Valley was very famous, so even if it did not reach the level of the octagonal heaven sect, it would not be too far off. Shuang Er is going there to cultivate? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, of course, to cultivate, Elder Qin said in a low voice. The Supreme Emotion Valley is a transcendent sect. It's hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of times stronger than our Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. There are countless cultivation resources there, far beyond what the Golden Crow 9 Realms forces can compare with. Lung Er's talent is extraordinary. Only by going there can she fully display her talent and have more room to grow in the future. Is that so? Jian Wushuang frowned. If what Elder Qin said was true, then it was indeed a good thing for Lung Wushuang to go there, and he had no reason to stop her. But his intuition told him that it was not so simple. Elder Qin, let me ask you again. What kind of sect does the Supreme Emotion Valley belong to? How much do you know? Jian Wushuang asked. How could I know too much about such a super sect? But last time, 2 disciples of the Supreme Emotion Valley came to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion because of Lung Er. I know something from them. Elder Qin paused for a moment and then said, I heard that the Supreme Emotion Valley has more female disciples than male disciples. Besides, this sect has a special feature, which is that almost all the disciples have no partners. No partner? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Yes. The great oblivion is to forget or even abandon emotions. It is said that there is a divine skill in the valley that can only be cultivated by people who are completely devoid of emotions and have not been touched by the mortal world. In addition, to cultivate this divine skill, one has to be terrifyingly talented. This condition is extremely harsh, and it is impossible for outsiders to achieve. The Supreme Emotion Valley has experienced countless years and has countless talented disciples. However, only 3 people have truly cultivated this secret technique. Moreover, these 3 people are unable to truly cultivate that divine technique to the highest level. However, not long ago, the Supreme Emotion Valley found out about Lung Er's existence from God knows where. They personally sent experts to investigate. In the end, they determined that Lung Er is the best candidate to cultivate that divine technique. She has the chance to become the 4th person in the history of the Supreme Emotion Valley to cultivate that divine technique. Therefore, the Supreme Emotion Valley discussed with the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. In the end, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion decided to send Lung Er to the Supreme Emotion Valley to cultivate, and the Supreme Emotion Valley gave the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion a lot of resources. The resources were much more than the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion could imagine, and they greatly helped the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Because of this, Lung Er was listed as the 3rd on the Dragon Phoenix list. Elder Qin said, completely abandon her emotions? Does that mean that after she cultivates that divine skill, she won't have any feelings anymore? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes. Elder Qin nodded. In fact, Lung Er doesn't have any feelings at all. She's cold to the extreme. She has always been like this, but for some reason, when she saw you, her emotions actually fluctuated. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang's face became unusually gloomy. She could accept that Lung Wushuang went to the Supreme Emotion Valley to cultivate. After all, Lung Wushuang was extremely talented and had a lot of room for growth. A top sect like the Supreme Emotion Valley was indeed suitable for her growth. But if she went there, she would have to abandon all her feelings, which was not what he wanted. Shuang Er already can't remember me. If I let her go to the Supreme Emotion Valley and cultivate that divine art, then the chances of her remembering me in the future would be very slim. Chapter 2909. Decision, I can't. I can't let Shuang Er go to the Supreme Emotion Valley. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. He had been looking for her for a long time. It had been 100,000 years in his previous life. Now that he finally saw Leng Rushuang again in this life, how could Jian Wushuang let her leave his side again? Moreover, once Leng Rushuang went to a place, she had to abandon all her emotions and forget everything in the past. Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang had made up his mind, and his face became determined. Buzz buzz buzz. His already extremely powerful aura suddenly soared at this moment. When the experts of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion around him saw this, their expressions immediately became solemn. Jian Yi, what do you want to do? Elder Qin, who was suppressed in the Blood Mountain Sword, immediately shouted in a low voice. She could feel Jian Wushuang's emotional fluctuation. What do you want to do? What do you think? Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold. The next moment, boom, Jian Wushuang moved directly. Like a flowing light phantom, he rushed toward the manor where Leng Rushuang lived with earth-shaking power. As soon as he moved, the surrounding people also became violent. Stop him! Long Xingzi shouted. In an instant, 4 immortal saints from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, including Long Xingzi, moved simultaneously. Stop! Chu Yong's voice was cold and harsh. He joined hands with another immortal saint, and the two of them stood in front of Jian Wushuang with monstrous auras. Chu Yong continued to wave his scarlet long spear, which was filled with flames. Then, finally, he left a huge fire passage in the void and suddenly appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. The immortal saint who was standing with him waved his massive fist. His fist was like a vast mountain, containing millions of kilograms of strength. It was as if he was going to smash the sky with one punch. The two stood in front of Jian Wushuang, while Long Xingzi and the other immortal saint attacked Jian Wushuang from both sides. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. The moment the immortal saints moved, a huge blood-red river with dark golden light surged out from his body. The blood-red river surged with overwhelming power and covered the entire void in an instant. Jian Wushuang had fully exerted his realm techniques, including the 9-universe blood-red river, the Star Armor realm, and the Prison of Punishment. Under the pressure of this realm, even experts like Long Xingzi, who were immortal saints, were immediately suppressed. Their strength was hidden by at least 20%. Then, Jian Wushuang attacked at lightning speed. His Blood Mountain sword slashed forward 2 times in a row. Clang, clang. Like a mountain, Chu Yong's long spear and the immortal saint's colossal fist were sent flying. As for Long Xingzi, who was attacking from the side, Jian Wushuang also fought them head-on. His sword light was powerful and quickly blocked the attacks of the two, but the 4 immortal saints also stopped him. Jian Yi, you have no right to be presumptuous in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Long Xingzi's voice was cold, and his aura was getting stronger. Beside him, Chu Yong and the other 3 immortal saints were also staring at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was indeed very famous in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. After all, he had killed 2 of them under the siege of the 3 immortal saints. Even the strongest among them, Long Xingzi, would not be a match for him in a one-on-one fight, but now they had 4 immortal saints working together, and this was the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. They were confident that they could take Jian Wushuang down. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted and did not speak. But at this moment he immediately activated the Supreme Sword Essence in the Blood Mountain Sword. That Supreme Sword Essence was extremely powerful. Jian Wushuang's understanding of the sword principle had reached the 2nd level, the Boundless Sword Tree, which was 3,300 meters tall. With this move, he instantly guided 1% of the sword essence to sweep out. Buzz, buzz. A supreme and extraordinary sword essence suddenly burst out. The power of this sword essence was so strong that it caused heaven and earth to be moved. The four immortal saints surrounding Jian Wushuang changed their expressions when they sensed this sword essence. What a powerful sword essence! When this sword essence killed Realm Lord Tianchu and the others, it also burst out the same sword essence. Therefore, this sword essence must have come from the magic sword in his hand. That magic sword, if I'm not mistaken, should be the sword principal magic weapon that Elder Mo used to refine with the holy heavenly furnace and caused a huge commotion. Be careful, don't underestimate him. The four immortal saints looked highly solemn. The supreme sword essence swept out, and with the help of this supreme sword essence, the power of Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship suddenly soared. Jian Wushuang attacked again. He slashed with one hand, and the Blood Mountain sword in his hand drew a perfect arc in the void. In an instant, a shocking sword light was directly released. This sword light was immense, boundless, and extremely bright. The most important thing was the power contained in the sword light. Unfortunately, with the support of the supreme sword essence, the power became too terrifying. When Long Xingzi, Chu Yong, and the others saw this sword light, the corners of their mouths could not help but twitch. Attack together to block. Long Xingzi let out a low shout. The four immortal saints immediately attacked. The four of them came from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, and they worked together with great tacit understanding. Thus, although the four of them attacked separately, their power could be perfectly combined. Boom! A loud sound shook the sky and earth. But in the end, four muffled groans sounded at the same time, and the four immortal saints of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion were sent flying by the terrifying power of the sword light at the first moment. Two of them were weaker, and their faces were a little pale. The rebounding force had slightly injured them. We four immortal saints can't even fight head-on. The power of the sword light is so strong? Long Xingzi was shocked. He did not know that Jian Wushuang had used such a shocking sword light to kill Realm Lord Tianchu when he had just made a breakthrough in his sword principle and guided his sword essence. Now that Jian Wushuang's comprehension of the space-time and reincarnation rules had reached the immortal saint level, his strength had soared again. The power of such a sword light was naturally more terrifying. Although Long Xingzi and the other three were working together, their strength was not much stronger. The most powerful Long Xingzi was only slightly stronger than the former master of the heavenly curve world. Therefore, even if they worked together, Jian Wushuang could still defeat them head-on. Chapter 29:10, Gold Dragon and Blood Phoenix. Those who block me will die. Jian Wushuang sent the four immortal saints flying with a single strike. His murderous aura was so strong that his cold voice spread throughout the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had been completely shaken. Countless experts and disciples had rushed here. When they saw Jian Wushuang send Long Xingzi and the others flying with a single strike, the experts and disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion were all shocked. That man, Jian, it's him. Demoness Gu was among the crowd. When she saw this scene, her heart was filled with great waves. Many years ago, she had fought with Jian Wushuang in the Beiming Star Field. At that time, Jian Wushuang was only slightly stronger than her. It had only been a short while, but the latter was already strong enough to fight against the top experts of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Moreover, it was a 1 versus 4 fight. Jian Yi, I admit that you are strong, but that doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion has existed in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow for so many years, and its heritage is beyond your imagination. Moreover, you are now staying in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's nest. So Long Xingzi's eyes were like lightning. He stared at Jian Wushuang. Everyone, follow me to activate the formation and kill this boy. As soon as he finished his words, a surge of mighty divine power rose from Long Xingzi's body. The divine power did not sweep toward Jian Wushuang. Instead, it surged into the void above and merged with the tremendous sect-protecting formation that had always existed above the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. At the same time, Chu Yong and the other 2 immortal saints also surged with majestic divine power and merged with the sect-protecting formation. As the divine power was poured in, an ancient and extremely powerful aura slowly invaded the sect-protecting formation. Just as Long Xingzi had said, The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had existed in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow for so many years and had a very deep foundation. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had many trump cards, and one of the most powerful trump cards was the sect-protecting formation that had been in and out of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion for a long time. The founder of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, Ancient Sage, had paid a great price to hire several powerful array masters to refine this formation. The Ancient Sage had also spent a great deal of effort and cost, in particular, to find the 2 most critical true spirits that made up this formation. The Ancient Sage had to search through thousands of mountains and rivers to see it finally. Ever since the formation was constructed, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had been guarding it for countless years. Unfortunately, over the years, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had encountered powerful enemies as well. For example, when the second Pavilion Master was still in power, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion experienced a great crisis. However, even though the crisis was great, no one had been able to directly attack the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's headquarters because of the existence of the sect-protecting formation. After generations of improvement by the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the power of this great formation became even more formidable. And now, under the guidance of Long Xingzi and the other 4 immortal saints, the power of this sect-protecting great formation was unleashed. Roar! A furious roar and a hissing sound resounded through the void at the same time. 2 majestic forces began to gather within the sect-protecting great formation above. A moment later, they formed 2 enormous creatures. One of the 2 giant creatures was a huge golden dragon that was more than 1,000 feet long. This golden dragon had 4 claws and was covered in golden scales. A pair of golden eyes looked down on its colossal dragon head. These eyes contained endless pressure, and a massive surge of genuine dragon chi was completely spread out. The other giant creature was scarlet all over as if it was covered in blood. It was also huge, but it looked extremely noble and beautiful. It was a phoenix, and it was a blood phoenix. Golden dragon, blood phoenix? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and looked at the 2 giant creatures above him. After the golden dragon and blood phoenix were formed, the aura on its body had been increasing crazily. In just a moment, it had reached a shocking level. Then, the golden dragon and blood phoenix moved directly. Boom! The huge 4-clawed golden dragon swooped down. But, before its huge body could get close to Jian Wushuang, a shocking power of the true dragon had already pressed down on Jian Wushuang. Suddenly, one of the 4 sharp claws of the golden dragon swung its front claw. A bright golden light appeared in the void. The golden light was so bright that it seemed to replace all the light in the world. The void trembled violently under this claw. This power, Jian Wushuang's face darkened. He could feel the power of the golden dragon's claw. This claw could tear the sky apart. If it were just an ordinary immortal saint, he would probably be torn into pieces by this claw. Fortunately, his battle strength was not comparable to that of an ordinary immortal saint. Jian Wushuang stood in the void and looked up at the golden light that was attacking him. Then he suddenly rushed forward, and the supreme sword essence was exerted to the limit in an instant. A vast and majestic sword light swept out again. The sword light was extremely shrill and collided with the incoming golden light. After a loud sound, both of them dissipated. The golden dragon had already pounced over. Gotcha! The golden dragon grabbed Jian Wushuang's blood mountain sword with one of his dragon claws. Then, the second dragon claw grabbed Jian Wushuang's head at lightning speed. Ridiculous! Jian Wushuang sneered. With a thought, the power of the blood mountain sword in his hand soared. Under Jian Wushuang's force, the sharp sword edge cut through the golden dragon's sharp claw, and then it collided with the second claw. A powerful force was transmitted through the dragon claw. Jian Wushuang slightly lowered his body and took a few steps back. However, just as he steadied himself, a scorching aura suddenly came from the void beside him. Jian Wushuang turned his head and saw that the blood phoenix had already appeared by his side. Its mouth had also opened. Boom! Scarlet flames that could burn the void spurted out of the blood phoenix's mouth, and the vast world instantly turned into a scarlet sea of fire. Jian Wushuang was in the center of the scarlet sea of fire. Wow, the temperature of this flame is terrifying. Fortunately, it's me. If it were an ordinary immortal saint, I'm afraid that this flame would melt him in an instant. Instead, Jian Wushuang was secretly amazed. His body protection ability was extremely powerful, and the key was that he had the perfect immortal body. The scarlet flames swept over him crazily. Although he was severely injured at the first moment, he quickly recovered with his divine power. Jian Wushuang flashed and escaped from the sea of fire. Chapter 29:11 Dragons and Phoenixes. The power of the golden dragon and the blood phoenix is really powerful. Jian Wushuang looked at the two giants in front of him with a heavy heart. Humph, Sword One, do you think the sect-protecting formation of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is only so powerful in attacking? Long Xingzi sneered and looked at the three immortal saints around him. Use that move. Chu Yong and the other two nodded heavily. In an instant, their divine power surged again. Golden light surged out of Long Xingzi's body. Dragon and Phoenix cry, "Kill the demon!" With Long Xingzi's low shout, the three-clawed golden dragon, which was over 300 meters long, suddenly let out a dragon cry. The dragon's cry was unusually loud and reverberated between heaven and earth. At the same time, visible ripples spread out and covered the void around Jian Wushuang in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. When the ripples spread out, he had already sensed the special power contained within them. Space-time, it's the power of space-time. Jian Wushuang was shocked and immediately realized that the space-time he was in had been completely sealed. A huge force came directly toward him and sealed him. Although Jian Wushuang had monstrous strength, he felt that he had nowhere to use it at this moment. The power firmly sealed him, making it very difficult for him to move. At this time, the blood phoenix on the other side had endless blood-colored flames surging on its body. The color of the blood-colored flames was darker than before, and it had even turned black and red. The temperature of the black and red flames was even more astonishing. Bind! The fire phoenix also let out a cry, and in the next moment, endless black and red flames crazily covered this patch of the void. Moreover, the moment the flames touched this patch of the void, they immediately fused perfectly with the space-time energy that acted on this patch of the void. In an instant, this patch of void started burning crazily. Under the burning of the terrifying flame, everything was annihilated. In the surrounding void, Long Xingzi and the others watched everything with a trace of coldness in their eyes. When they saw that Jian Wushuang had been completely covered by the black-red sea of fire, a cold smile appeared on their faces. Although the sect-protecting formation of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is mainly used to defend against external enemies, and although it's not very good in terms of offensive and killing, now that the four of us are driving the formation to evolve into a golden dragon and a blood phoenix, together with the Dragon Phoenix cry, even an ordinary immortal saint who has mastered the immortal body would find it difficult to resist it. As for Jian Yi, although he has also mastered the immortal body, he is only a divine master and doesn't have much divine power. Under this move, he won't be able to hold on for long and his divine power will be completely exhausted. At that time, even if he has the immortal body, he will definitely die. Long Xingzi sneered. The three immortal saints and Long Xingzi also had the same thought. They all thought that Jian Wushuang was dead for sure. Even if he did not die, his divine power would be exhausted. Then they would kill him. But at this moment, something unexpected happened. Buzz! A sword light suddenly lit up. It seemed to be able to tear the world apart. After it appeared, it directly split the sea of fire where Jian Wushuang was in half. A large number of flames spread in all directions, revealing a wide passage. At the end of the passage, a young figure holding a long sword slowly walked out. What? He actually broke this move? How is it possible? The most terrifying thing is not the burning of the blood phoenix's flames, but the space-time imprisonment that comes with it. Under the space-time imprisonment, he should have been burned by the blood phoenix's flames, but he actually broke free from the golden dragon's space-time imprisonment? Long Xingzi and the other three were shocked. They did not know that the space-time imprisonment of the golden dragon was indeed powerful. If it were any other immortal saint, he would not be able to resist the space-time imprisonment and would only be burned by the blood phoenix flame. However, Jian Wushuang was different. First, his divine power was extremely powerful. Second, he was good at the space-time rules and had reached the level of the immortal saint. Thirdly, and most importantly, he knew how to use such a space-time imprisonment skill. For example, the heaven-designated skill, which could freeze time and space, was much more profound than this space-time imprisonment skill. Jian Wushuang was very familiar with this skill, so he naturally knew how to break it. Therefore, after falling into space-time imprisonment for only a moment, he directly broke free. Dragon and Phoenix Cry is indeed a good technique, but unfortunately, it's me. Jian Wushuang sneered and looked at the golden dragon and blood phoenix in front of him with a fierce look in his eyes. Then, he slowly raised the long sword in his hand and slashed it. This slash seemed to be an easy one, but the moment it was slashed, Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship, the supreme sword essence guided by the blood mountain sword, and the power of the infinite sword tree in his body had been exerted to the extreme. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Many space-time rules condensed together with the sword essence, forming one space-time blade after another. More than 400 space-time blades were densely packed together, and these space-time blades had wholly merged with the sword essence. The space-time rules and swordsmanship were perfectly combined. The ninth move of space-time swordsmanship, Storm. Boom. A fierce wind suddenly swept up between heaven and earth. A colossal storm rose out of thin air in the void where Jian Wushuang's sword essence was directed. This storm contained more than 400 space-time blades and endless shocking sword essence. It was terrifying, and the storm had already swept toward Golden Dragon and Blood Phoenix. Golden Dragon and Blood Phoenix seemed to have sensed the terrifying power contained in this storm and wanted to flee at once. However, the storm was too fast, at least more quickly than their fleeing speed. Moreover, the storm was getting bigger and bigger as it swept through. The Golden Dragon and the Blood Phoenix did not escape far before they were swept into the storm. But, then, under the endless killing power, the Golden Dragon and the Blood Phoenix did not struggle much before they were directly crushed into pieces. Then, they turned into a sky full of power and returned to the sect-protecting array. How could this be? Long Xingzi and the others behind them were shocked when they saw this scene. The Golden Dragon and Blood Phoenix, formed by the sect-protecting formation fully guided by the four of them, were mighty. They should have been able to fight against a true saint who had an immortal body, but Jian Wushuang crushed them. Chapter 29:12. Saint Hong, how could Jian Yi be so powerful? Long Xingzi and the others were shocked. There was nothing they could do. However, Jian Wushuang's strength was much stronger than they had imagined. He was much stronger than when Jian Wushuang killed Realm Lord Tianchu and the others. Now that the Golden Dragon and Blood Phoenix had been defeated, the only one in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion who could stop Jian Wushuang was him. Humph! After killing the Golden Dragon and Blood Phoenix, Jian Wushuang snorted. He did not even bother to look at Long Xingzi and the others. Instead, he immediately rushed toward the manor where Leng Rushuang lived. However, he stopped shortly after he moved. The reason was that a figure had appeared in front of him. It was an older man in a yellow Taoist robe. The older man's eyes were cloudy, and he stood there as if the wind could blow him down. However, it was because of him that Jian Wushuang stopped. Jian Wushuang looked at the older man in a Taoist robe, and his face became very serious. Although the vicissitudes of Life Elder in front of him did not emit any aura or show any skills, he just stood there, and it gave Jian Wushuang tremendous pressure. The pressure was too great. It was much more significant than when he faced the Golden Dragon Blood Phoenix and the four immortal saints simultaneously. Jian Wushuang instantly understood that the Weathered Elder must be a very powerful expert. The experts of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion also saw the appearance of the Weathered Elder. Some of the young experts and disciples were puzzled. They did not know the Weathered Elder. However, some of the top experts who had stayed in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion for a long time, including Long Xingzi, were excited. It's Saint Hong, the previous pavilion master of our Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The previous pavilion master is still in our Dragon Phoenix pavilion. That's great. Haha, with the previous pavilion master here, Jian Yi can't be arrogant anymore. Surprised voices kept ringing in the Dragon Phoenix pavilion. Those experts who knew the identity of the weathered elder were all very excited. Saint Hong. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and stared at the elder, quickly recalling the information in his mind. Soon, he understood the identity of the person who came. The previous pavilion master of the Dragon Phoenix pavilion was also ranked on the Dragon Phoenix list, and he ranked 5th on the list. Many years ago, he broke through to become an immortal saint. When he was in charge of the Dragon Phoenix pavilion, he was known as the Immortal Saint, the closest to Bone Emperor in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. However, 100,000 years ago, he disappeared and passed on the position of pavilion master to Long Xingzi. It was rumored that he left the 9 realms of the Golden Crow and went to the vast third firmament. But now it seems that it's not the case. Jian Wushuang's heart was very heavy. There was nothing he could do. Long Xingzi was no match for Saint Hong. He was also the pavilion master of the Dragon Phoenix pavilion, but he was mighty. 100,000 years ago, he was already known as the Immortal Saint, the closest to Bone Emperor in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Now that 100,000 years had passed, his strength must be even more terrifying. Is this the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's last resort? Jian Wushuang stared at Saint Hong with a burning gaze. Although this Saint Hong was very famous, Jian Wushuang was also very powerful now. So he was not afraid of Saint Hong at all. I have been in seclusion for many years. I didn't want to appear again, but you are making too much noise today. Saint Hong opened his eyes slightly, revealing a pair of cold eyes. After all, we're in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Do you think no one in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion can act so recklessly? I dare not. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is famous in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. I don't want to be enemies with the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion unless it's necessary, Jian Wushuang said. In that case, please release the elder who suppressed the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Then, I'll let bygones be bygones and let you leave safely afterward. What do you think? Saint Hong said. Jian Wushuang did not say anything, but Long Xingzi was already anxious. Grand Uncle Master, Jian Yi is so reckless in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and even suppressed the elder on the spot. If the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion doesn't kill him on the spot, he will become the laughingstock of all the forces. From now on, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion will lose its prestige in the Golden Crow 9 realms. Therefore, Grand Uncle Master, please kill Jian Yi on the spot. Even if you can't kill him, you have to punish him severely. Right, we can't let him go so easily. If we let him go so easily, where will our Dragon Phoenix Pavilion lose face? The Immortal Saint of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and the surrounding experts were all furious. None of them were willing to let Jian Wushuang go. Seeing this, Saint Hong frowned slightly. Shut up! Saint Hong shouted in a low voice. Long Xingzi and the others immediately stopped talking. After that, no one dared to say another word. After suppressing all the voices, Saint Hong looked at Jian Wushuang again and asked, My young friend, are you willing? Saint Hong is so bold. No one in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is willing to let me go, but you are. Jian Wushuang laughed heartily, then he said, I can release Elder Qin and leave immediately, but I have to take another person with me. Another person? Are you talking about the young phoenix of our Dragon Phoenix Pavilion? Saint Hong asked. Yes, as long as you let me take her away, I can apologize for what happened today. Regardless of what price the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion needs me to pay, I will agree as long as I have it. After that, not only will I not offend the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, but I will also owe the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion a huge favor. In the future, if your Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is in danger, I will do my best to help you. How about it? Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. Hearing this, Saint Hong pondered for a moment and then shook his head. No. The young phoenix is essential to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. I can't let you take her away. In that case, there's nothing more to say. However, I've long heard that the previous pavilion master of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, Saint Hong, Is the immortal saint closest to the Bone Emperor in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow? Since I'm lucky enough to meet her today, I'd like to have a good experience. Jian Wushuang's aura had become cold. It seems that you have made up your mind. In that case, I will accompany you. Saint Hong's voice also became cold. At the same time, a terrifying aura slowly rose from his body. Chapter 29:13 The World of Ice and Snow Rumble. Even though they were both immortal saints, the aura emanating from Saint Hong's body was much stronger than Long Xingzis and the others. It was at least several times stronger. This terrifying aura suppressed heaven and earth. Saint Hong flipped his palm, and a dark golden stone staff appeared in his hand. This dark golden stone stick had an extremely powerful aura. It was a saint treasure at the peak of the 3rd grade. Saint Hong took a step forward and instantly crossed the distance between him and Jian Wushuang. Thus, he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Then, he swung the dark golden stone stick in his hand. It looked like an ordinary person waving a stick. There was not much mystery to it, but a giant dark golden stick shadow appeared as soon as he swung the stick. The dark golden stick shadow was mighty, like a flood dragon's body. It suddenly swung toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang did not dare to be careless. When Saint Hong waved the stone stick in his hand, his Blood Mountain sword immediately slashed out. Jian Wushuang also waved his sword, but he had already exerted the power of his divine power to the maximum. The boundless sword tree in his body trembled slightly and burst out with eternal sword essence. The supreme sword essence from the Blood Mountain sword also burst out without restraint. The sword light from the Blood Mountain sword collided with the dark golden staff shadow in the blink of an eye. Clang. As soon as a low sound of collision was heard, a surge of divine power immediately formed a storm that swept out in all directions. There were many experts from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion around the two of them. When they saw the divine power storm, they were so frightened that they immediately retreated. In the center of the battlefield, Jian Wushuang's face was cold. Yet, he could feel the power contained in the dark golden long staff. The power was not weaker than his, and it was even a little stronger than his. Suddenly, Saint Hong pulled his long staff and then smashed it again. Again, it was natural and without any hesitation. Jian Wushuang also immediately waved his sword and used the same power. However, when the two collided again, Jian Wushuang's body trembled slightly. Ha! Saint Hong suddenly let out a long laugh. The dark golden long stick in his hand was like a firestorm wheel, smashing toward Jian Wushuang again and again. Each stick contained a shocking power. Each stick was violent and straightforward, but it was also extremely terrifying. One stick after another crazily smashed toward Jian Wushuang. Even Jian Wushuang was a little surprised when he saw the stick shadow crazily smashing toward him. Jian Wushuang immediately displayed his swordsmanship. He also brandished his sword and met with Saint Hong head-on. It was a head-on fight. However, in such a fight, it was evident that Saint Hong had the absolute advantage while Jian Wushuang kept retreating. Bang! There was another violent bang. Jian Wushuang's body sank and almost fell to the ground. I have comprehended the rules of the earth. With the help of the power of the earth, the power of my stick is endless, and each stick is stronger than the last. My long stick is made of special crystals, and I also pay attention to power. You, a sword principle cultivator who has comprehended the rules of space and time, dare to confront me head-on. You are overestimating yourself. Saint Hong's mighty voice resounded in the world. He stepped forward again, and the dark golden long stick in his hand became more powerful. Then, with the power of the rules of the earth, it attacked Jian Wushuang again. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold. Overestimating yourself? Jian Wushuang gave a strange smile, and then, bush, 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 bush. Black streamers appeared in front of Jian Wushuang like black lightning. These black streamers were the Netherblood Divine Swords at the superior Heavenly Treasure level. Although these Netherblood Divine Swords were only at the superior Heavenly Treasure level, there were a total of 18 of them. Under Jian Wushuang's control, these 18 Netherblood Divine Swords had perfectly fused in the blink of an eye. Buzz! A faint humming sound, like the sound of a sword, slowly sounded. A brand new, 5-meter-long black divine sword with a very thin sword body appeared in the world. The third level of the reincarnation sword formation, Reincarnation Drunk. This sword formation is the reincarnation sword formation created by Sword Master Copperheart? Saint Hong looked at the sword formation with a strange expression. Sword Master Copperheart was a super expert who was almost invincible among the immortal saints. So Saint Hong naturally knew about it and knew about the reincarnation sword formation. Sword Master Tong Xen was so famous that the power of the Samsara sword formation he created could not be underestimated. Go! Jian Wushuang pointed from afar, and the 5-meter-long black magic sword instantly pierced through the void and shot toward Saint Hong. In an instant, the black magic sword appeared in front of Saint Hong. Humph! Saint Hong snorted and waved the dark golden long stick in his hand. It brought along the endless power of the earth's rules and smashed directly into the black magic sword. Bang! The 5-meter-long black divine sword shook slightly and then collapsed. It's just the third reincarnation sword formation. It's just a joke in front of me, Saint Hong said disdainfully. Really? Jian Wushuang smiled and said, the third reincarnation sword formation can't do anything to you. What about the fourth one? As soon as Jian Wushuang finished his words, the underworld blood divine swords reassembled. This time, the combination was more complicated, and the power of the law of reincarnation was obviously bigger. In the blink of an eye, a brand new sword formation appeared in front of everyone. It was also a black divine sword, but it was less than 2 meters long, but its body was very wide. When the 2-meter-long black divine sword was put together, the world around it suddenly turned gray. This grayish-white looked as if it had fallen into a vast expanse of white snow. There was a vast expanse of white everywhere except for the pitch-black divine sword in the void. This black divine sword naturally became the sole focus of the world. The fourth level. Saint Hong's pupils could not help but shrink. The reincarnation sword formation was stronger and stronger. Previously, he was only at the third level of the samsara drunkard. As long as his comprehension of the laws of reincarnation reached the limit of a supreme being, he could easily use it. He did not care about it at all. However, the fourth level was completely different. The fourth level of the reincarnation sword formation required the comprehension of the laws of reincarnation to reach the level of an immortal saint. Its power was much more powerful than the third level. And this samsara sword formation was called the world of ice and snow. Kill! With a thought, Jian Wushuang shot out the only black divine sword in the vast white world. It was extremely fast, and the most important thing was that it was too powerful. Chapter 29:14, Could not be stopped, Humph. Saint Hong's divine power burst out. The dark gold long stick turned into a dark gold bolt of lightning and struck out rapidly. In an instant, it collided head-on with the black divine sword. The black divine sword was still sent flying by the collision, but Saint Hong himself staggered and took 3 steps back. Each step was heavy and powerful. It seems that there is not much difference in strength between them. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. Then, under his control, the black divine sword shot out again. Bang, 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 bang. The black divine sword and Saint Hong's dark golden long staff collided again and again. Each time, Saint Hong had a slight advantage, but it was only a tiny advantage. Do not forget that the sword formation was controlled by consciousness and soul. Therefore, the recoil from the collision did not affect Jian Wushuang at all. On the contrary, the power of the reincarnation sword formation was directed at Saint Hong's divine body again. This situation was disadvantageous to Saint Hong. Sorry to trouble you. Saint Hong frowned slightly. At this moment, Jian Wushuang, who was in the void in front of him, waved his right hand, and a streak of golden light immediately burst out and merged with the surrounding void. Buzz buzz, the world shook. A natural scroll world appeared in the void above. There were mountains and rivers in the scroll world, and the most eye-catching ones were the 9 towering continents. 1,000 treasures great world, sword principal world. Jian Wushuang shouted in a low voice, and the world began to change in an instant. They were initially in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, in a huge ancient sect, but they had appeared on a desolate land in the blink of an eye. There were all kinds of divine swords stuck in the empty land. However, there was no doubt that each of these swords had an extremely powerful aura. There were hundreds of thousands of them. This was a sword tomb, a giant sword tomb. Sensing the changes in the surrounding world, Saint Hong's pupils could not help shrinking. Immediately, the sword essence emitted by Jian Wushuang became much more powerful with the appearance of the sword tomb. It was even stronger than before. Swish! The black divine sword shot out again, and its power was much stronger than before. The world will be changed. But, in this world, will the strength of cultivators who are good at sword principle be greatly improved? Saint Hong's eyes focused. He already knew the function of the sword tomb. After the appearance of the sword principle world, the corner of Jian Wushuang's mouth curled up, and his body directly floated out. Bang, 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 bang. The black divine sword formed by the fourth reincarnation sword formation, the world of ice and snow, was still as fast and fierce as before, crazily attacking Saint Hong again and again. Saint Hong also waved the dark golden long stick in his hand again and again. But at this moment, a cold and gloomy sword light suddenly appeared in the surrounding void. This sword light was very weak, but it was extremely fast. As soon as it appeared less than a meter away from Saint Hong. Saint Hong's pupils constricted. When he collided with the Samsara sword formation, his soul power had been staring at Jian Wushuang, so Jian Wushuang's actions could not be hidden from him. For example, Jian Wushuang's sudden swordsmanship. He had also noticed it, but the speed of this sword was a little faster than he had expected. Saint Hong's figure blurred and quickly brushed past the edge of the sword light. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang was not discouraged. He flicked his right wrist and swung the Blood Mountain sword. Sword shadows burst out, forming a huge sword net that wrapped around Saint Hong. Saint Hong held a dark golden long stick in both hands. This time, he swept the sword net with overwhelming divine power and shattered it. However, the moment the sword net shattered, the black divine sword formed by the reincarnation sword formation appeared in front of him once again. Upon seeing this black divine sword, Saint Hong's expression sank. The power of this sword isn't weak. His close combat ability is also powerful. In this world of sword Dao, even if he were to fight me in close combat, I wouldn't be able to take too much advantage of him. However, the key point is that he still has the perfect cooperation of the reincarnation sword formation. One is close combat, while the other is long range. When the two are used together, even if I have the combat power of a true saint, I would only be able to defend against him passively. Saint Hong felt helpless in his heart. He was very strong. According to the realm of the immortal saint, he had reached the true saint level and had completely mastered the immortal body. He was completely different from Long Xingzi, Chu Yong, and Realm Lord Tianchu. However, Jian Wushuang, who had used many trump cards to guide the sword essence in the Blood Mountain sword, was as strong as a true saint. Moreover, he was not much weaker than Jian Wushuang. Most importantly, Jian Wushuang's close combat ability and the Samsara sword formation perfectly complemented each other. As a result, he was helpless and could only passively resist. Although I still have my ultimate moves and killer moves, he has an immortal body. So it's impossible to kill him. Saint Hong sighed secretly. He already knew that he could not kill Jian Wushuang. Because of this, he had hoped that Jian Wushuang could retreat on his own so that he could avoid a big battle. After Jian Wushuang refused, he wanted to rely on his absolute strength to make Jian Wushuang retreat. However, he did not expect that Jian Wushuang's real battle strength was not weaker than his and was even slightly more potent than his. Now, he was forced by Jian Wushuang into a problematic situation. In such a situation, he could not do anything to Jian Wushuang. If he was outside the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, with the protection formation of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, I could easily shut him out. But now, he has entered the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The protection formation of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion focuses on defense, but its offensive ability is not strong, so it can't do anything to him. And if I continue to fight with him, there will be no result. On the contrary, if I force him, if he starts a massacre in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, I'm afraid no one can stop him. Saint Hong had many thoughts in his mind. In the end, he had no choice but to compromise. He had no choice. This was the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's headquarters. Jian Wushuang did not want to make things too difficult for the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, so he did not kill them. However, if he pushed Jian Wushuang to the brink and started killing wantonly, the consequences would be too severe. Jian Yi, stop, Saint Hong said. Jian Wushuang immediately stopped what he was doing. I can't do anything to you, and I can't stop you. If you take Xiaofeng away, neither the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion nor I will stop you. But whether you can take her away in the end depends on your ability, Saint Hong said. Chapter 29:15 is here, thank you. Jian Wushuang looked at Saint Hong gratefully, then he turned around and went to the manor where Leng Rushuang lived. Grand Uncle Master. Long Xingzi was anxious. Saint Hong waved his hand and said, let him go. He can't take Xiaofeng away. After all, the people over there are coming. So fast. Long Xingzi was shocked. Of course, he knew who Saint Hong was talking about. Without the experts from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion blocking him, Jian Wushuang soon arrived at the beautiful manor. In the attic corridor of the manor, Jian Wushuang saw Leng Rushuang again. Leng Rushuang had been standing there. She had seen what had happened on the battlefield, but her expression became very complicated when she saw Jian Wushuang again. Shuang, come with me, okay? Jian Wushuang stretched out his hand and stared at Leng Rushuang with deep affection. Leng Rushuang's expression changed slightly. She disagreed, but she did not refuse immediately. It was evident that she was hesitating. Yes, Leng Rushuang was hesitating. She could not remember Jian Wushuang, but he gave her a hot and reliable feeling. When Jian Wushuang said he wanted to take her away, she did not resist at all. But at the same time, she also had a lot of concerns. Leng Rushuang had not made a decision, but at this time, buzz. A vast aura suddenly came from the surrounding void. In the void outside, the enormous sect-protecting formation of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was activated again, and then a space passage appeared in the middle of it. A group of white-robed figures slowly walked in from the spatial tunnel. There were a total of 9 of these white-robed figures, a total of 9 people. 8 of these 9 people were women, and only 1 was a man. Moreover, all of their expressions were ice-cold and did not contain the slightest emotion. 9 extremely powerful auras immediately spread within the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion when they stepped into the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion from the spatial tunnel. Sensing these 9 auras, the experts and disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion were all shocked. The immortal saints are all immortal saints. Where did these people come from? There are 9 immortal saints. Which force is this? Exclamations immediately sounded in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. However, the ordinary experts and disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had limited strength, so they could not sense it. However, immortal saints like Saint Hong and Long Xingzi could sense it. The 9 people who came were immortal saints, but all of them had auras that far surpassed ordinary immortal saints. Even the weakest ones seemed to be no more vulnerable than Saint Hong or even more vital. In other words, these 9 people were all true immortal saints who had mastered the immortal body. The previous pavilion master of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, Hong, greets all of you from the supreme emotion-forgetting valley. Even Saint Hong appeared extremely humble in front of these 9 true saints, and he did not dare to put on any airs. Among the 9 true saints, the leader was an ordinary-looking woman with a hint of coldness and arrogance. This cold and arrogant woman glanced around, and her cold voice slowly sounded, Pavilion Master Hong, we've traveled tens of thousands of miles to come here, but there's not even a single person outside to welcome us? Isn't your Dragon Phoenix Pavilion too disregarding the supreme emotion-forgetting valley? The cold-looking woman was obviously not happy. I'm very sorry. Something happened in my Dragon Phoenix Pavilion today, so I was unable to welcome you from afar. I hope everyone can atone for your sins, Saint Hong apologized. Something happened? The cold arrogant woman frowned and looked up. A majestic soul power swept out and instantly covered the entire Dragon Phoenix pavilion. The cold arrogant woman also saw Jian Wushuang and Leng Rushuang standing side by side in the distant manner. Her eyes turned slightly cold. What's going on? Who's the kid next to the young phoenix? The cold arrogant woman asked. His name is Jian Yi, and he's a top-notch genius in our Golden Crow 9 realms. He came to our Dragon Phoenix pavilion to pay a visit this time, but we didn't expect him to fight in our pavilion and want to take the young phoenix away. The experts of our Dragon Phoenix pavilion have tried their best to stop him, but he's so powerful that we can't do anything to him, Saint Hong said bitterly. Your Dragon Phoenix pavilion has a few immortal saints, and you, a true saint, can't do anything to a little divine master? The cold prideful woman glanced at Saint Hong. Saint Hong looked bitter. Humph. The cold arrogant woman snorted and said, Junior brothers, go and bring your new junior sister here. Yes. Beside the cold arrogant woman was a young man with long purple hair. He was the only man among the 9. After hearing the cold arrogant woman's words, a purple demonic light flashed in his eyes. Then he turned into a purple rainbow and rushed toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, who was standing in the attic, saw Ziyi's arrival and his face darkened. Although he was far away, he had already sensed the auras of the 9 people. Now that Zi had attacked him, the pressure on him was enormous. You can go. Leng Rushuang's voice suddenly sounded. No. Jian Wushuang shook his head. If you want to go, let's go together. In my previous life, because I asked you to leave, I have been searching for you for 100,000 years. Now that I finally see you again in this life, how can I let you go? Why are you doing this? Leng Rushuang looked at Jian Wushuang and sighed softly. Jian Wushuang just smiled gently and did not answer. Buzz. Ziyi's figure had already appeared in the void in front of Jian Wushuang, and a strange purple spear appeared in his hand. As Ziyi moved his wrist, divine power burst out, and the long spear immediately stabbed toward Jian Wushuang. This stab was just a normal stab, but it gave Jian Wushuang an illusion. It was as if no matter how he tried to block or dodge, the spear would stab him directly. What a strange spear technique. Jian Wushuang was surprised, but he immediately attacked. The supreme sword essence was still unbridled, and Jian Wushuang's battle strength was raised to the limit. The Blood Mountain sword coldly faced it. Clang. The purple demonic long spear collided with the Blood Mountain sword. A metallic sound rang out, but Jian Wushuang's pupils suddenly shrank. The power contained in the purple demonic long spear was too strong. The moment it collided with the sword, it actually caused the Blood Mountain sword to slightly change its direction, and then the long spear continued to stab at him. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted and immediately retreated. While retreating, he slashed 3 times with the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. Chapter 29:16. Kill him. Clang, clang, clang. The Blood Mountain sword and the demonic purple spear clashed 3 more times before Jian Wushuang managed to block the attack head-on. You're the first divine master to block my attack head-on. Zi glanced at Jian Wushuang with a strange look in her eyes, and then boom! Endless spear essence burst out, and his divine power surged crazily, attacking Jian Wushuang again. Go! Jian Wushuang pointed from afar, and the reincarnation sword formation formed by 18 Netherblood divine swords burst out instantly. The surroundings instantly turned into a white world of ice and snow. Jian Wushuang also rushed out, and the reincarnation sword formation reached its peak in close combat with him. While Jian Wushuang and Ziyi were engaged in a fierce battle, the remaining 8 people of the Supreme Emotion Valley had already arrived in front of Leng Rushuang. Junior sister Leng, come with us. Although the cold and arrogant woman's voice was cold, her gaze toward Leng Rushuang was different from the others. After all, they all knew how important Leng Rushuang was to the Supreme Emotion Valley. She had the hope of cultivating the supreme divine skill. Leng Rushuang was also a disciple of the Supreme Emotion Valley, but once she entered the valley, she was favored by thousands of people. Her status was much higher than ordinary disciples like them. Leng Rushuang glanced at Jian Wushuang, who was engaged in a bitter fight. Finally, she gritted her teeth and said, "I can go with you, but you can't make things difficult for him anymore." Huh. The cold, arrogant woman's face darkened. She looked at Leng Rushuang seriously. She said in a low voice, "You should forget all love in the world after entering our supreme emotion-forgetting valley. You are cold and emotionless. You are the best candidate to cultivate the divine skill of our supreme emotion-forgetting valley. But now, you are pleading for a man? It's fine if you don't plead for mercy. But now that you are pleading for mercy, this divine master named Jian Yi is doomed to die. Only when he's completely dead and no longer appears in front of you will it not affect you in any way." "What?" Leng Rushuang was immediately shocked. "Junior Sister Chiu." The cold, prideful woman glanced at the blue-haired woman behind her. The blue-haired woman nodded slightly, and then she took a step forward. A blue light suddenly burst out from her pair of pitch-black eyes. The blue light was beautiful and immediately attracted Leng Rushuang's attention. Leng Rushuang's eyes immediately became misty. Although she was talented and as easy as eating and drinking when she comprehended the rules, she had only cultivated for a short time and was only at the peak divine master level. She could not resist the illusion of an immortal saint. In the blink of an eye, Leng Rushuang fell into a deep sleep. After Leng Rushuang fell into a deep sleep, the cold, arrogant woman once again looked in the direction where Jian Wushuang and Zi were fighting. A mere divine master can fight with junior brother Zi head-on, and his battle strength has reached the level of a rank 1 true saint. But, unfortunately, he is deeply in love with his junior sister Leng, and the person who impressed him deeply is her. Such a person cannot be allowed to enter our supreme emotion-forgetting valley, so he can only be killed. Junior brother Zi, don't dawdle with him. Just kill him." The cold, arrogant woman shouted in a low voice. "Yes." Zi nodded slightly. Then, a burst of bright purple light suddenly burst out from his body, and a purple exotic beast phantom appeared behind him. A terrifying aura burst out from the purple exotic beast phantom, and Zi's eyes turned purple, becoming extremely demonic. "Kill!" Zi attacked again. His momentum was several times stronger than when he fought with Jian Wushuang. After all, Jian Wushuang had just fought with Zi. Even if he exerted his killing ability and the reincarnation sword formation to the extreme, he was still at an absolute disadvantage. Now, Zi's strength had increased by several times, and he was crushing Jian Wushuang. Boom! With a loud boom, Zi held the purple long spear in both hands, and the size of the spear in his hands suddenly increased. It was clearly a long spear, but at this moment, it was like a huge stick being held by Zi, and then it was violently smashed out. In an instant, the world fell silent. Numerous mighty purple phantoms rushed toward Jian Wushuang at lightning speed. Jian Wushuang's face darkened. He held the Blood Mountain sword with both hands and tried his best to defend himself. However, as soon as the Blood Mountain sword came into contact with the purple phantoms, a terrifying force immediately came into effect. This force was much stronger than Jian Wushuang's own power. It was completely overwhelming. Jian Wushuang's body was affected by the power and he fell down. However, before he really appeared on the ground, Zi suddenly appeared beside him. His eyes were like lightning, and a dazzling light shot out. God-severing demonic spear. Zi shouted. The dazzling purple light was not hindered at all and directly hit Jian Wushuang's divine body. Although Jian Wushuang had the 9 luminary star armor and his golden armor, the 9 luminary star armor immediately collapsed under the dazzling purple light. As for the golden armor, although it was not of a high level, it had become extremely tough because it had fused with his perfect blood essence. The spear did not directly pierce through his golden armor, but the terrifying power contained in the spear directly crushed his divine body through the golden armor. Rumble. Jian Wushuang's divine body immediately collapsed. Is he dead? Zi stood in the void beside him and watched Jian Wushuang's divine body collapse with an extremely cold expression. Jian Wushuang's strength had indeed surprised him, but he was still surprised. His battle strength was so great that a rank 1 true saint was no match for him. But at this moment, Huh. Ze suddenly frowned because he had already seen Jian Wushuang's broken divine body begin to reassemble under the gathering of a large amount of divine power. In the blink of an eye, an intact Jian Wushuang appeared in front of him again. Immortal body? Ze was surprised. Even the cold arrogant woman and the others behind him looked strange. He's just a divine master, and his battle strength is comparable to a rank 1 true saint. How could he have an immortal body that only a true saint can control? This kid is strange, the cold arrogant woman muttered. However, her eyes turned slightly cold. No matter how strange he is, since he has something to do with junior sister Leng, he must die. Chapter 29:17 Unkillable. Junior sister Chiu. The cold arrogant woman called out. Behind her, the blue-haired woman who had caused Leng Rushuang to fall into a deep sleep, walked up once more. This divine master controls an immortal body, and his divine power seems to be extremely vast. It will be tough to kill him with just material attacks. I can only leave him to you, the cold arrogant woman said. Okay. The blue-haired woman nodded slightly, and then she floated forward. In the blink of an eye, the blue-haired woman had landed beside Z. He'll have to ask you to fight again, Z said. Although his combat strength is good, he's only a divine master. However, with your skills, it should be straightforward to kill him. Just watch, the blue-haired woman said. Then she looked at Jian Wushuang with her cold eyes. Jian Wushuang stood there with a cold expression. Although he had been fighting with Z, he had been paying attention to Leng Rushuang. Then, finally, he saw the blue-haired woman put Leng Rushuang into a deep sleep. Now, the blue-haired woman appeared in front of him again. Buzz. A strange power swept out from the blue-haired woman's body. This power did not have any ability, but Jian Wushuang had sensed it the moment it swept out. Soul attack. Jian Wushuang's face darkened, not feeling surprised at all. He had an immortal body, so it was challenging to kill him with material attacks. The best way to kill an expert with an immortal body was to kill his soul directly. The blue-haired woman was an immortal saint who was good at soul attacks. Destroy! The blue-haired woman stretched out her hand and let out a low shout. In an instant, the magnificent soul power surged again and covered Jian Wushuang in all directions. Soul blast! Without any hesitation, the soul blast was carried out in a crushing manner. There was no way to dodge the soul attack, so Jian Wushuang stood there and let the magnificent soul power cover his body. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang felt a rumble in his head. The blue-haired woman specialized in the soul. When her soul attack was strong, Jian Wushuang estimated that the average immortal saints like Long Xingzi and Realm Lord Tianchu would have a hard time resisting the blue-haired woman's attack. Their souls would be destroyed in an instant. Even a true saint like Saint Hong would have a hard time resisting it. As for Jian Wushuang himself, as Z had said, he was strong in battle, but his real realm was only that of a divine master. Moreover, he was only an advanced great divine master and had not reached the limit of a great divine master yet. Therefore, in terms of soul, he was not very strong, and he was also only at the peak of the great divine master level. Even if the exquisite pagoda guarded his real soul, the second level could not withstand such a soul attack. Bang! The exquisite pagoda directly collapsed. The terrifying soul power attacked Jian Wushuang's natural soul. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang's real soul was destroyed. In the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the immortal saints from the Supreme Emotion Valley and many experts from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had been staring at Jian Wushuang. At this moment, they saw Jian Wushuang's eyes dim and his divine body collapse. He's dead. He's dead now. Saint Hong could not help sighing. Jian Yi is indeed a genius. Incredibly, he has the battle strength of a true saint in the divine master realm. Even I can't help admiring him, but unfortunately, he is too arrogant. Or rather, the opponent he provoked is too strong. Long Xingzi could not help sighing. Supreme Emotion Valley, that's the Supreme Emotion Valley. Since we can't kill them with material attacks, we can directly use soul attacks to wipe them out. Unfortunately, the people from the Supreme Emotion Valley are really ruthless. The experts in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion also sighed. The experts from the Supreme Emotion Valley all had cold expressions. Let's go. The cold, arrogant woman waved her hand gently. Ze and the blue-haired woman nodded slightly and prepared to leave. But at this moment, Jian Wushuang, who had fallen to the ground and turned into a corpse, suddenly opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, a powerful sword essence immediately burst out. What? The cold, arrogant woman, Ze, all the immortal saints of the Supreme Emotion-Forgetting Valley, Saint Hong, Long Xingzi, Chu Yong, and the other experts and disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion were all shocked at this moment. One by one, they looked at Jian Wushuang with shock and bewilderment. Especially the blue-haired woman who had killed Jian Wushuang with her soul attack, she was now staring at Jian Wushuang. Under their gazes, Jian Wushuang had indeed come back to life. Not only had he come back to life, but his aura was also influential. It was evident that he was not affected at all. Where do you want to go? Jian Wushuang's cold voice echoed between heaven and earth. After his voice sounded, the entire heaven and earth became completely silent. Silence, dead silence. All the experts present were stunned as if they had seen something incredible. They had seen something incredible. He is dead. He was killed by my soul directly. His soul was destroyed. How could he still be alive? How is this possible? The blue-haired woman shook her head crazily and growled. This, the cold, arrogant woman, Saint Hong, and the others did not know what to say. When they saw that Jian Wushuang had mastered the immortal body and knew that material attacks could not kill him, they immediately switched to soul attacks. However, Jian Wushuang's soul had been destroyed after the soul attack, but he still survived? What on earth was going on? Everyone was stunned. Only Jian Wushuang knew very well. The immortal body he controlled was derived from his perfect chaotic life form. It was the perfect immortal body. Not only was this immortal body ineffective in material attacks, but even soul attacks were also ineffective. He could infinitely replenish his divine body and substantial soul as long as he had sufficient divine power. So what if his soul was destroyed? He could completely recover in the blink of an eye. He was truly undying. He was invulnerable. Not to mention a mere immortal saint, even a stronger master might not be able to kill him. Chapter 29:18. The most powerful trump card was unleashed. Leave Shuang Air behind, or all of you will die. Jian Wushuang's eyes had turned scarlet as if he was a demon from hell. He stared at the 9 people from the Supreme Emotion Valley, and his voice also came from the 9 Serenities Hell. What kind of monster is this guy? His soul has been destroyed, but he is still alive? The cold and arrogant woman was also shocked. I don't believe it. The blue-clothed woman shouted, and then she attacked again. The same majestic soul power directly burst out, and this power once again covered Jian Wushuang. Previously, Jian Wushuang's soul was protected by the exquisite pagoda, but now the exquisite pagoda had collapsed and could not be repaired in a short period. In the face of the soul attack of the blue-clothed woman, there was no room for struggle at all. In the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang's real soul was once again killed and destroyed. This time, everyone was focused on staring at Jian Wushuang. They could feel that Jian Wushuang's soul power had indeed wholly disappeared. However, in just a moment, buzz. Jian Wushuang's soul power rose at a terrifying speed and quickly recovered to its peak. At this moment, everyone understood. Monster. Jian Wushuang was indeed a monster. A monster that had exceeded entirely common sense and could even recover from soul destruction in an instant. How could immortal saints like them kill such a monster? They'll say it one last time. Leave Shuang Air behind. Don't force me. Jian Wushuang shouted sternly. Don't force you. The cold, arrogant woman said in a deep voice. Kid, I admit that you're very strange. But, of course, we can't kill you, but don't think that we can't do anything to you. We can't kill you, but we can suppress you. As the cold and arrogant woman spoke, she flipped her hand, and an ancient black tower appeared in her hand. This black tower gave off a unique aura, but this black tower should be a sacred treasure from the power it gave off. Sacred treasure, and it's scarce a suppression-type sacred treasure. Suppression-type sacred treasure? Isn't this even rarer than a domain-type sacred treasure? The experts from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion were all shocked. Yet, at the same time, they could not help but exclaim in admiration. As expected of the Supreme Emotion Valley, their methods were truly impressive. Although the 9 people who came this time were only at the Immortal Saint level, these Immortal Saints were not just terrifyingly strong individually. They had all sorts of methods. Material attacks, soul attacks, and now this cold and arrogant woman had taken out a suppression-type sacred treasure. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion could not compare to her ability. Boy, I'll suppress you first. Then I'll take you back to my Supreme Emotion Valley and let my Valley Master and Elders deal with you. There are many experts in our Supreme Emotion Valley, so we'll naturally have ways to deal with you and your background. We also have ways to figure out your background. Now you'd better go in. The cold arrogant woman sneered. She waved her hand, and the pitch-black tower in her hand instantly rushed out and appeared in the void above Jian Wushuang. Then, the black tower suddenly enlarged and turned into a tall black tower. There were a lot of secret patterns at the bottom of the tower. At this moment, these secret patterns had been activated, and in the blink of an eye, a huge black hole appeared there. Countless black air currents were crazily binding Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang stood there and looked up at the black tower, but his body was slightly trembling. I don't want to be enemies with your Supreme Emotion Valley, but today, you forced me to. Jian Wushuang let out a roar, which was hysterical and echoed in the world. The moment the roar fell, boom. Without any warning, a unique but supreme pressure suddenly burst out from Jian Wushuang's body. This pressure was not the pressure of divine power, aura, or mighty divine power, but the pressure of life and supreme beings. This pressure rose from Jian Wushuang's body and swept across the 9 heavens and 10 lands instantly, sweeping across all directions. The heaven and earth shook in an instant, and the vast space around them began to tremble crazily. A fierce wind also rose, bringing all things in the world to worship Jian Wushuang at this moment. Heaven and earth completely fell silent. The cold and arrogant woman of the Supreme Emotion-Forgetting Valley, the blue-clothed woman, the 9 Immortal Saints, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion Saint Hong, Long Xingzi, Chu Yong, and many other experts, as well as countless disciples, all stared at Jian Wushuang with wide eyes. Their eyes were filled with unconcealable fear and trepidation, but more than that, they were shocked. Their bodies were even trembling. They were purely frightened and oppressed. And then, plop, plop, one by one they all knelt. The first to kneel was the weaker disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Most of them were divine masters, including Earth Divine Masters and Divine Masters. The maximum pressure that originated from the life level was not something they could withstand. After kneeling, how long did it take for them to fall into a coma? In the blink of an eye, all the strong disciples inside and outside the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, excluding those immortal saints, had already knelt. But, unfortunately, more than half of them had already fallen into a coma. But this was not the end. Suddenly, with a plop, another figure could not help but kneel. And this time, it was the weaker immortal saint from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Yes, it was the immortal saint. This immortal saint's eyes were filled with unprecedented fear. He could not control his legs at all, and he could not help but kneel. It was not just him. Plop, plop, plop. Another 2 figures knelt. The other 3 immortal saints from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, including the current pavilion master of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, Long Xingzi. Even Long Xingzi could not resist the pressure of the supreme life level. As for those who did not kneel and could barely stand, only experts at the true saint level like Saint Hong could. It was worth mentioning that none of the 9 immortal saints from the Supreme Emotion Valley knelt directly. Although they did not kneel, their bodies trembled violently, their minds were in a daze, and their breathing seemed completely frozen. They were also suppressed and could not move at all. Yes, except for Jian Wushuang, there were countless experts on the field who could not move at this moment. His supreme life level pressure had already suppressed the entire field. Chapter 29:19. heaven-cleaving skill, heaven-cleaving sword. How did this happen? What happened? Everyone present was utterly dumbfounded. Or rather, they were all frightened by the terrifying pressure of the supreme life level. That pressure was too terrifying. And this pressure came from Jian Wushuang. At this moment, everyone stared at Jian Wushuang with horror in their eyes. What kind of monster is he? This question arose in everyone's mind. But at this moment, the monster in their eyes slowly raised the long sword in his hand. As he raised the sword, the supreme life-level pressure immediately merged into his sword force. It made his sword move terrifying. Rumble. The world suddenly shook, and the wind and clouds surged in the void above. A large number of dark clouds had already covered the area crazily. But, at the same time, the supreme will of the heavenly Tao, which existed in every corner of the divine beginning world, was slowly attracted over. This was very normal. The Xianshan Taoist had warned Jian Wushuang that it was best not to use his strongest trump card, the pressure of the perfect life level. Once the pressure was released, it would cause too much commotion and might attract the will of the heavenly Tao. To get the mountain river map, Jian Wushuang had used the pressure of the supreme life level once. Then, he was lucky that the will of the heavenly Tao did not come, but this time, he was not so fortunate. However, Jian Wushuang did not care about that anymore. Not only did he use the perfect life level suppression, but he also used another trump card the moment he raised his longsword. Jian Wushuang had a vast background and had many tricks and trump cards. Among these trump cards, there was another one besides the life level suppression. This trump card was the heaven-cleaving skill. The heaven-severing technique was the strongest divine ability created by his master, Xian Yi, and the first perfect primal chaos creature in the absolute beginning divine world. This divine ability was left in his memory along with the 5 strongest secret techniques of the 7 Stars mysterious sect. After his reincarnation, he understood the cultivation methods of these 5 strongest secret techniques and the heaven-severing technique. He had chosen a suitable cultivation method for the 5 strongest secret techniques of the 7 Stars mysterious sect a long time ago. These years had also helped him immensely, allowing his strength to surpass those of the same level far. However, he had never used the heaven-cleaving skill. He did not want to use it, but that he was not qualified to use it. If he wanted to use the heaven-cleaving skill, he had to be at least at the level of Immortal Saint or above. Although Xian Yi had developed this divine ability based on his perfect life level, it was accompanied by the suppression of life level. However, Jian Wushuang had only used his life level suppression once. Now his life level suppression was spreading again. Although he was only a divine master, his divine power was as strong as that of the Immortal Saint or even slightly stronger than that of the Immortal Saint. Under such circumstances, he was qualified to use the heaven-cleaving skill. As Jian Wushuang raised the long sword in his hand, a terrifying power that suffocated everyone slowly spread out. In front of Jian Wushuang, the cold and arrogant woman had just looked down on Jian Wushuang, but now her face was pale. It was not only her but also the other disciples from the Supreme Emotion-Forgetting Valley. They had already felt a suffocating power from the Blood Mountain sword that they could not resist. The cold and arrogant woman regretted attacking Jian Wushuang. But now that Jian Wushuang had raised his long sword, it was impossible for him to stop. So even if she regretted it, it was useless. Go to hell! Jian Wushuang's cold voice exploded in the world. Heaven-cleaving skill, heaven-cleaving skill. Boom! The Blood Mountain sword in Jian Wushuang's hand finally fell. The long sword fell straight down, just like how he usually swung his sword. However, the difference was that he exerted the pressure of his perfect life to the extreme with the help of the heaven-cleaving skill. Buzz buzz buzz. A vast sword sea swept out of thin air. This sword sea was huge and boundless. As soon as it appeared, it enveloped the void in front of it. Not good. Seeing the sword sea cover them, the 9 undying saints of the Supreme Emotion-Forgetting Valley turned pale with fright. However, they were suppressed by the perfect life form and could not move at all. They could only watch as the sword sea completely submerged them. As they fell into the sword sea, a unique power immediately attacked them. In front of this power, they had no room to struggle at all. Immortal body. I have an immortal body. Zi was terrified. He knew that he could not block the sword C, but he still had a high chance of survival. After all, he was a true saint, and he had the immortal body. This sword C was a material attack. But even if it could destroy his immortal body, he could use his immortal body to rebuild it. That was what he thought. However, when the sword C acted on him, and the special power attacked him, he was completely stunned. This power directly destroyed my divine power? Ze was stunned. He had personally felt the power mercilessly destroy his divine power. From the beginning to the end, he had no ability to resist or struggle. As the sword C swept past, Ze, the true saint expert who had just fought Jian Wushuang one-on-one and had the absolute advantage, was completely annihilated. Not even a trace was left behind. Ze was the first to die, and then whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Under the cover of the sword C, the immortal saints from the Supreme Emotion Valley followed in Ze's footsteps. Before they died, these immortal saints were terrified. They did not expect that the sword C that covered them would not only be extremely powerful but also have a unique ability that made their immortal bodies ineffective. Hum. The sword C covered the entire battlefield and enveloped the 9 immortal saints from the Supreme Emotion Valley. However, under Jian Wushuang's control, the sword C did not touch Leng Rushuang at all. As for the 9 immortal saints from the Supreme Emotion Valley, they had already suffered a catastrophe. In the blink of an eye, 8 of the 9 immortal saints were killed on the spot. Silence. The huge Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had fallen into a dead silence. There was no sound at all. Chapter 29:20 Consciousness Doppelganger. Countless experts in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion were completely stunned. There were 9 immortal saints in the Supreme Emotion Valley. In the blink of an eye, 8 of them died on the spot. Jian Wushuang's terrifying sword strike and terrifying strength shocked everyone. This is impossible. A shrill voice suddenly sounded. The voice belonged to the cold and arrogant woman, the only one among the 9 immortal saints of the Supreme Emotion Valley who was still alive. The cold and arrogant woman was the strongest among the 9, and her position in the Supreme Emotion Valley was very high. Although an elder of the Supreme Emotion Valley had given her a life-saving command token, which she had used just now, she was lucky enough to survive. Otherwise, she would have been killed on the spot just like the other 8 people. However, although she survived, her right arm had been cut off by the sword C. She was pressing on the wound on her right arm. The divine power in her body was surging, trying to repair the broken right arm. However, no matter what she did, the wound did not change at all. There was still a trace of extraordinary power left in the wound, which was still eroding her divine body. What kind of power is this? The cold, arrogant woman was terrified. Jian Wushuang stood in front of her with a cold face. The heaven-cleaving skill can even cut through saber principle. The immortal body has no effect against the heaven-cleaving skill. Jian Wushuang murmured, "Unfortunately, I only met the requirements to use the heaven-cleaving skill, and I didn't have a deep understanding of it. I just barely used it, but I didn't use even 1/1000th of its power. Otherwise, even though I'm only a divine master, the heaven-cleaving skill alone is enough to defeat many immortal saints." Jian Wushuang clenched his fists. He knew how terrifying the heaven-cleaving skill was. It was the most powerful magic power created by his master Xian. Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed, and he immediately raised his head. As he raised his head, he saw that the void above him was becoming noisier and noisier. The will of heavenly Tao is about to descend, so I can't dawdle. I want to leave with Shuang Air immediately. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold, but he directly moved forward, wanting to snatch Leng Rushuang away. But just as he moved, a hysterical roar suddenly came out of the cold and arrogant woman's mouth. "You killed 8 disciples of our Supreme Emotion Valley. Today, no matter what background you have, you will die without a doubt. No one can save you." As the cold and arrogant woman's roar fell, a jade slip suddenly appeared in her hand. It was a gray jade slip that emitted a special aura. As soon as the jade slip appeared in her hand, it was crushed by her. In an instant, a thick and ancient aura burst out from the jade slip. Rumble. The aura was so strong that it was suffocating. As soon as it appeared, countless cultivators felt as if their necks were being strangled. They could not even breathe normally. Jian Wushuang's figure immediately stopped in the void. He frowned slightly and looked toward the source of this aura. Here, a hazy figure slowly took shape. This figure was at least 3 meters tall. Although her face could not be seen clearly because of the hazy figure, she was already a woman. Master! Seeing the 3-meter-tall figure, the cold and arrogant woman immediately cried and knelt. A pair of cold eyes swept across the surroundings from the haziness and saw everything. She ignored the cold and arrogant woman and directly locked her eyes on Jian Wushuang. The pressure of the life level? And it's so strong, it's incredible. The haziness could not help but be shocked. She had a noble identity and was very powerful. She had spent many years in the core of the absolute beginning divine world, which was the third sky. She had seen all kinds of bloodlines and races in the whole beginning divine world, as well as some unique life forms. But she had never seen a creature with a life level pressure that was so strong. The person with the highest life level pressure I've seen is a superior life form who has long reached the level of a master of laws. He is a life form formed by a golden mountain that has existed for billions of years. His physique is powerful, and he is one of the overlords of the absolute beginning divine world. When that life level pressure swept out, even the top bloodlines in the whole beginning divine world would have to submit to it. But I feel that the life level pressure from this divine master is 10 times stronger than that of the rule master. The shadowy figure exclaimed in disbelief. While the shadowy figure stared at Jian Wushuang, the latter was also sizing her up. An avatar of consciousness? Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. A cultivator could easily condense an avatar of consciousness if he wanted to. However, an avatar of consciousness did not have power, but an avatar of consciousness was different. An avatar of consciousness could have a certain level of combat strength. Some people could condense an avatar of consciousness because they cultivated secret skills, which was enough to display 30% to 40% of the original Bodhi's combat strength. The blurry figure in front of him was a consciousness clone, and it was the consciousness clone of a rule master. Even if the consciousness clone of a rule master only has 20% or 10% of the combat strength, it's probably enough to defeat the immortal saint, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. But, facing the consciousness clone of a rule master, he was also feeling a lot of pressure. What's going on here? Who is this person? The shadowy figure asked slowly, but his voice was a bit hoarse. Master, this person is a monster, the cold and arrogant woman said. We were ordered to come to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion to take junior sister Lung back to the supreme emotion-forgetting valley, but we were stopped by this person. At first, we saw that he would be a hindrance to junior sister Lung, so we wanted to kill him directly. However, we did not expect that although he is only a divine master, his methods are very powerful, and he is too strange. He is just a divine master, but his combat strength is strong enough to match a first-level true god. Moreover, he has an immortal body. This immortal body is not only ineffective against material attacks, even soul attacks have no effect at all. Just now, junior sister Chiao had already used soul attacks on him twice in a row. Each time, his soul was completely destroyed, but he was still able to survive and recover immediately. Just as I was planning to use the treasure to suppress him, he used an incredible technique to kill junior brother Z and his 7 junior sisters. Even I would have died if I didn't have the life-saving talisman that you gave me. Chapter 29-21. The heavenly Tao has descended. Hearing the cold and arrogant woman's words, even though she was a shadowy figure, she could not help but feel shocked. A divine master could not even kill a material attack or a soul attack. A divine master could kill 8 true saint-level disciples of her supreme emotion valley with just one sword? A divine master was 10 times more powerful than the most influential person she had ever met. This man, the shadowy figure, stared at Jian Wushuang with a strange light in her eyes. I have no intention of making an enemy of the Supreme Emotion Valley. So let me take Shuang Air with me. From now on, we will not interfere with each other. Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. You killed 8 true saints of the Supreme Emotion Valley, and you still dare to talk to me like this? What a joke! The shadowy figure's voice turned cold. Die with that disciple of the Supreme Emotion Valley. As soon as the shadowy figure finished her words, she attacked. She pointed with one hand, and the void in front of her penetrated directly. Immediately, a vast, giant finger with a layer of snow white directly attacked Jian Wushuang. The moment the giant finger stretched out, it was as if a great snowfall fell from heaven and earth. Jian Wushuang's pupils suddenly shrank. He had already sensed the power of this finger. This finger had already exceeded the scope of the immortal saint. I have already displayed the pressure of a perfect life level, and I have also performed the heaven-cleaving skill. The will of heaven should have sensed my existence. If I use it again, the will of heaven will probably lock onto me in an instant. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, but his eyes were fixed on Lung Rushuang, who was quietly floating in the void in front of him. A touch of scarlet suddenly burst out from the depths of his eyes. I'll risk it all for Shuang Air. Jian Wushuang let out a fierce shout, but he raised the Blood Mountain sword in his hand again. The moment he raised it, the endless pressure from the life level crazily gathered in the Blood Mountain sword again. Heaven-cleaving skill. Jian Wushuang used it again. This time, because of his previous experience, its power was even stronger than the sword he used to kill the 8 immortal saints of the Supreme Emotion Valley. Kill! The Blood Mountain sword in Jian Wushuang's hand fell with the pressure from the endless life level. It was also a vast and majestic sword C, but it instantly combined and turned into a real heaven-cleaving sword after it swept out. In front of this sword, even heaven had to retreat. In the blink of an eye, the heaven-cleaving sword collided with the vast giant finger. Bang! This collision was like 2 realms and 2 large worlds colliding crazily. The whole world roared and trembled under this collision. After the collision, the 3-meter-tall hazy figure in the void trembled slightly and then took 3 steps back. Jian Wushuang also took a few steps back, and the sword light had completely dissipated. She forced me to retreat? The figure was full of disbelief. She was a rule master. Even if it was not the original body but a consciousness clone that could only use 10% of its strength, its battle strength was enough to sweep away the Saint Realm. But now she was fighting a divine master head-on, and they were evenly matched? She found it hard to believe, and Jian Wushuang was also very surprised. My sword strike gave me the feeling that it was mighty, but this person only came with a consciousness clone, and he blocked my sword strike head-on. The Master of Rules is so powerful? Jian Wushuang was also praising it in his heart. Both of them were shocked. However, just as they were shocked, look at the sky. An expert from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion exclaimed. Everyone present, including the kneeling experts, raised their heads with difficulty and looked up at the sky. When they saw it, they were stunned. They saw that the sky above had long changed color. Previously, there were only a large number of dark clouds sweeping over from all directions, but now, the dark clouds were filled with rolling thunderbolts. These thunderbolts flickered crazily, and in the blink of an eye, they had already formed a vast lightning sea. This lightning sea was not formed by the divine power or special power of the cultivator himself. It was purely formed by nature. This was a vast lightning sea of heaven and earth. In the middle of the lightning sea, numerous dark purple thunderbolts as thick as buckets were dancing wildly. Each of these dark purple thunderbolts caused the numerous experts below, including the immortal saints, to feel fear and trepidation in their hearts. Without any warning, 2 of the dark purple thunderbolts collided with each other. This collision did not create too much movement, but there were threads of electric arcs that scattered out. These threads of dark purple electric arcs, they suddenly descended from the void above. The first thing they did was to descend onto the sect protecting Great Formation around the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's sect protecting formation was one of the greatest things that the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had relied on over the long years. No one had been able to blast open this great formation for so many years forcefully. But now, as this dark purple lightning bolt descended, boom! The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's sect protecting formation let out a violent rumble. After that, the entire great formation collapsed, completely disintegrating. The divine power that filled the sky also spread out wildly in all directions. The sect-protecting formation, which the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had relied on for so many years, actually collapsed? The sect-protecting formation collapsed? How is this possible? Even the immortal saint, whose strength is incomparably terrifying, wouldn't be able to shake this formation even if he used all his strength. But now, just a wisp of lightning from the Sea of Lightning could directly destroy the sect-protecting formation. Just how terrifying is the power contained within that Sea of Lightning? Inside and outside the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, countless experts were highly shocked, their faces filled with terror. In the sky above, rumbles sounded out one after another. This was the roar of the heavens and earth, the roar of the heavens. A terrifying might madly crush down, wanting to annihilate everything. This is the will of the heavenly Tao. The hazy figure was the most knowledgeable. When he saw the sea of thunder, he immediately reacted. It's the will of the heavenly Tao, and it's very obvious that it's coming for him. The hazy figure looked at Jian Wushuang, but his heart was filled with great waves. This kid is just a divine master, but the will of the heavenly Tao suppressed him? He defied the heavenly Tao? The hazy figure roared in his heart. The will of the heavenly Tao controlled the heavenly Tao, and it was the most supreme power in this world. The absolute beginning divine realm was boundless, and there were countless experts who dared to defy the heavenly Tao. The masters of laws did not dare, and the masters of the sage realm did not dare either. But now, a mere divine master actually defied the heavenly Tao. Chapter 29-22. Go. Who is this kid? What's his background? The shadowy figure stared at Jian Wushuang, full of shock and curiosity. Rumble, in the endless thunderclouds, a destructive power had already spread out. But this destructive power had completely locked onto Jian Wushuang. Is it coming? Jian Wushuang was directly below the thunderclouds. His face was cold, and his body was slightly trembling, but he still retained a trace of unyielding in his heart. At the same time, a dark gray jade slip appeared in Jian Wushuang's hand. The dark gray jade slip was his ultimate life-saving move. But he did not want to pass it now. His eyes looked through the void in front of him. Lung Rushuang was still in a deep sleep, and the shadowy figure was standing next to her. If Jian Wushuang wanted to go up and snatch Lung Rushuang, he had to pass through this shadowy figure. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang's heart was trembling crazily. He was roaring crazily, and there was endless unwillingness in his heart. However, no matter how unwilling he was, he had to be clear about the situation in front of him. Boom! With a violent boom, the destructive power in the void above and deep in the thunderclouds finally exploded. Countless dark purple thunderbolts that could easily shatter the void and kill the immortal saint gathered together at an astonishing speed. Under the gathering of these thunderbolts, a huge face was formed in the blink of an eye. That's right, it was a human face. This human face was icy. It slowly descended from the void above. The further down it went, the more the destructive power multiplied. In the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, countless cultivators sensed the power contained within this human face. Everyone was stunned. Even the shadowy figure, who was a dignified master of laws, felt a slight tremble in her heart when she saw this human face that was completely formed from thunderbolts. The will of heaven. This is the power of the will of heaven. Even in the third heaven, where the will of heaven is weak, the power of the will of heaven is still strong enough to kill rule masters. If it reaches the third heaven, the power of the will of heaven is said to be able to suppress even saint realm masters. No one can resist such power. The hazy figure shook her head secretly, but she looked at Jian Wushuang with a hint of pity. In her opinion, Jian Wushuang was dead for sure if the will of heaven attacked him personally. Then he would not have any room to struggle. It was true. When the human face swooped down and kept approaching Jian Wushuang, the pressure Jian Wushuang felt multiplied. It made him despair. He could not move his hand, which was holding the jade slip. He could not crush the jade slip directly. But at this time, crash. The surrounding void suddenly broke. Without any warning, a huge black hole directly appeared. And in this space black hole, a huge hand directly extended out. This huge hand contained the power to rip the sky. As soon as it appeared, it struck the human face like lightning, and it happened to hit the face of the human face. With a crisp sound, the human face directly collapsed and turned into a sky full of dark purple thunderbolts, which swept wildly in all directions. Each of these dark purple thunderbolts had the power to destroy the world. As they swept through the surrounding void, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion immediately suffered. The earth rumbled crazily, and the thunderbolts shattered countless mountain buildings. Some unlucky people were even struck by the dark purple thunderbolts and died on the spot. Jian Wushuang, run! A deep voice suddenly sounded in Jian Wushuang's mind. This voice made Jian Wushuang's body and mind tremble. He stared at Leng Rushuang in front of him, and his fingertips had already pierced into his flesh. If Shuang heir loses hair or suffers any injustice, I will destroy your whole family from now on. Jian Wushuang's cold voice resounded across the entire sky. After his voice fell, Jian Wushuang finally crushed the dark gray jade slip in his hand. The dark gray jade slip contained a skill, which was teleportation. As the jade slip was crushed, a wave of space-time power was activated, and Jian Wushuang's figure instantly disappeared from the spot. Jian Wushuang had already left. The giant hand that stretched out from the void was retracted, and the void was restored without leaving a trace. Only the top of the sky was left. Countless deep purple thunderbolts were still dancing crazily, and the destructive power was getting stronger and more violent. Terrifying booms were heard continuously. It was obvious that the power of the will of heaven was angry. Someone saved the Divine Master under the power of the will of heaven? The shadowy figure still existed in this world. She had seen everything that had just happened, and now she was shocked. The power of the will of heaven just now, even if her original body came, would be destroyed on the spot. However, someone who was hundreds of millions of miles away used a great method to destroy the destructive power of the will of heaven and save Jian Wushuang. How terrifying was the person who had just saved Jian Wushuang? What happened to the power of the will of heaven? The hazy figure raised her head again and looked over in surprise. She could see that the power of the will of heaven was obviously still in a rage. However, in her opinion, since Jian Wushuang had been rescued, the power of the will of heaven should have dissipated very soon. However, looking at the traces now, the power of the will of heaven did not have any intention of dissipating. And at this moment, in the vast thunder sea above, a space passage slowly appeared. That's right, it was a spatial tunnel. There was not the slightest spatial factor in the void previously. However, a tunnel had been forcefully opened up by someone. A human figure slowly appeared at the end of the spatial tunnel. The human figure slowly walked out of the spatial tunnel and quickly appeared in everyone's sight. This was a bald man wearing a white robe. He was smiling. This bald man was barefoot and his entire body was bathed in sunlight. White light flickered on his body, giving off a gentle feeling of a cool breeze. He stood there in the air and did not speak. However, everyone in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion seemed to have completely calmed down. Everyone became calm and peaceful. At the same time, everyone's gaze, including that of the blurry figure, could not help but look at the white-robed bald man. The blurry figure's eyes were already wide open. Sage Lord. Chapter 29-23. The Sage Realm Master has arrived. The Sage Realm Master has personally arrived. Even this hazy figure, a dignified master of laws, was utterly stunned at this moment. Previously, it was the will of the heavenly Tao that had descended. Still, now, a dignified sage realm master, the strongest existence in the absolute beginning divine realm, had personally arrived. That's not right. No matter what, this place is outside the third heaven. In the endless territories, the power of the will of the heavenly Tao isn't too oppressive here. Although a sage realm master is formidable, he is far away in the third heaven and is still at the core. He can't rush here so easily. Even if he has the power of the will of the heavenly Tao to help him, he wouldn't be able to do so. Then he must be a consciousness clone. The shadowy figure thought to herself. She was right. The white-robed bald man was indeed a consciousness clone, but it was much stronger than the one she had condensed as a rule master. After the white-robed bald man walked out of the tunnel, he looked down with a gentle gaze. "I'm late. Did he escape again?" The white-robed bald man had already received the message from the power of the will of heaven. He knew that Jian Wushuang had been rescued. Although he was a little angry, he was still smiling on the surface, giving off the feeling of a spring breeze. At the same time, the white-robed bald man also noticed the hazy figure, and his eyes had already penetrated through it. The blurry figure's heart skipped a beat, but he immediately bowed and greeted, "Grand Supreme Emotion Valley's Zhu Exen greets you, sir." Why would someone from Grand Supreme Emotion Valley appear here? The white-robed bald man asked. "It's like this. A disciple of my Grand Supreme Emotion Valley has met with some trouble here, and I've come specially to pick her up," the blurry figure said. "The disciple you're talking about is that woman?" The white-robed bald man had already turned to look at Leng Rushuang. "Yes." The blurry figure did not dare to lie. "This woman is not ordinary. If I'm not wrong, the little fellow who escaped earlier, who the heavenly Tao does not tolerate, must be related to her." The white-robed bald man's eyes flickered with a strange light. The blurry figure was startled. Although she could sense that the white-robed bald man's tone was somewhat unfriendly, he immediately said, "Sir, this girl is a disciple of my Supreme Emotion Forgetting Valley and is especially important to my Supreme Emotion Forgetting Valley. But, most importantly, my Supreme Emotion Forgetting Valley's master thinks highly of her and has even intended to accept her as a disciple." Old Valley Master? That old woman. The white-robed bald man did not show any signs of anger on the surface, but his heart sank. The Supreme Emotion Valley was indeed a large force in the absolute beginning divine realm. It could even be compared to the Eight Directions heavenly sect. If that were all, he would not take it to heart. However, the Supreme Emotion Valley's master had to make him pay attention to her. "Forget it. Since he is the successor of that old woman, I will naturally not make things difficult for him." The white-robed bald man waved his hand. "Thank you, milord." The hazy figure secretly heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, the white-robed bald man had already turned around, and a terrifying aura was spreading out from his body. The power of the will of the heavenly Tao above the void had yet to dissipate. At this moment, the white-robed bald man seemed to have wholly combined with the power of the will of the heavenly Tao. With the help of the power of the will of the heavenly Tao, the white-robed bald man began to set up some unique arrays. What is he planning? The hazy figure was shocked when he saw this, but he soon understood. He is setting up a spatial tunnel, and with the help of the will of the heavenly Tao, could it be that he is planning to open up a spatial tunnel leading to the third heaven, allowing his true body to descend from the core of the third heaven personally? The hazy figure was amazed at it. In the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, many experts were also looking at the scene at the top of the void in shock, but no one dared to stop him. This was a boundless void that was a certain distance away from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City, and even the Golden Crow Nine Realms. This void has initially been empty. But suddenly, a figure appeared without any warning. This figure was naturally Jian Wushuang. He had once obtained a unique jade slip in the secret realm left behind by the rule master of the Pil Sun's sacred world. The jade slip contained teleportation. Teleportation was one of the skills that could only be mastered after one had reached an extremely high level of understanding of the space-time rules. Among the immortal saints, anyone who could control teleportation was the best immortal saint. This time, he directly used the jade slip and teleported into the void. Jian Wushuang did not know how far he had teleported and where he would be teleported to. However, in the situation just now, he had no choice but to use teleportation to escape. After appearing in the void, Jian Wushuang's aura immediately became weak. Not only was he weak, but he was also very weak. The heaven-cleaving skill was the most powerful divine power created by his master Xian. It was extremely powerful. Although he could not exert 1/10 of its power, it was still too much of a burden for him to use it. Moreover, he had just used it twice. His divine power and mind had been extensively damaged after using it twice. He had indeed fallen into a weakened state. This was the first time he had encountered such a weakness since his reincarnation. However, Jian Wushuang could not care less at this moment. His expression was cold and his mind was full of thoughts. I unscrupulously displayed the power of the life level and performed the heaven-cleaving skill twice in a row. The power of the will of heaven has already arrived. The power of the will of heaven has completely locked onto my position. Although Taoist Xian Shen helped me out of my predicament in time and allowed me to teleport away, now that my position has been exposed, the power of the will of heaven, as well as the mortal enemies of the seven-star mysterious sect in the core of the divine beginning world, the three masters of the saint realm, will immediately rush over. Even if their original bodies won't come in person, their consciousness doppelgangers will definitely come. When that time comes, they will definitely try to find my whereabouts. They will definitely turn the 9 realms of the Golden Crow and even the surrounding territories upside down. I definitely can't go back to the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Not only that, all the people who are close to me in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow must be moved immediately. Jian Wushuang was very clear about the danger he was facing. Not only would he face great danger, but he would also implicate the people around him. For example, his parents in this life. Chapter 29-24. Escape his parents in this life, his elder sister, second brother, and the people closest to him would be implicated. Jian Wushuang had to ask them to leave as soon as possible. But now, he did not know where he was. So there was only one way to take Shui Yunfeng and the others away. Jian Wushuang took out a message token. It was the first time he had taken it out since he got it. Miss Xiao Air, there's something I need your help with. Jian Wushuang had already sent the message. In the Witch Desert region, under the command of the Beiming Star Field in the Pil Sun Sacred World. It was the 12th month, and the snow covered the entire Burning Moon City with a layer of silver clothing. In the courtyard in the center of the City Lord's mansion, Zhui Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin stood together. Darling, do you remember when I was pregnant with Shuang Air? Luo Xinqin asked. Of course I remember. Zhui Yunfeng smiled. Shuang Air is a child with extraordinary talent. He stayed in your arms for 9 years, 9 months, and 9 days, and it snowed in Burning Moon City for 9 years, 9 months, and 9 days. Strangely, the snow stopped on the day Shuang Air was born, and the sky cleared in an instant. I wonder how this child is doing outside now? Luo Xinqin asked. I don't know, but with his talent and speed of improvement, his strength is probably many times stronger than before. He might have already reached the peak of the Reverent God realm. His achievements are not what we can imagine, Zhui Yunfeng said with a smile. Yes. Luo Xinqin sighed softly. But at this moment, a figure appeared in the sky above the Burning Moon City's City Lord's mansion without warning. This figure wore a simple gray robe and a gray mask. As soon as he appeared, a majestic aura immediately enveloped him. Zhui Yunfeng, Luo Xinqin. A cold voice sounded both inside and outside the City Lord's mansion. The entire City Lord's residence instantly erupted into a clamor. The many cultivators in the residence looked up at the gray-robed masked figure with endless terror. Even the 2 God-fiend realm experts sent by the Great Tragedy sect to secretly protect Zhui Yunfeng and his wife were highly shocked at this moment. Greetings, milord. May I know why milord has come to my Burning Moon City? Zhui Yunfeng immediately stood up and said respectfully, You are Zhui Yunfeng? Is that your wife, Luo Xinqin, beside you? The gray-robed masked figure asked. Yes. Zhui Yunfeng nodded subconsciously. If that's the case, then there's no mistake. Come with me. The gray-robed masked figure waved his hand, and immediately, Zhui Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin lost the ability to resist. Instead, they were directly driven by the gray-robed masked figure to rush towards the surrounding void. Soon, they disappeared from the world. It was not until the three of them left that the governor's mansion exploded. The two divine devil realm experts who were secretly protecting Zhui Yunfeng and his wife were shocked. When Jian Wushuang left, he had reached an agreement with the Great Tragedy sect. Before Jian Wushuang returned, the Great Tragedy sect would do their best to ensure the safety of his parents. But now, Jian Wushuang's parents were in the governor's mansion of Burning Moon City. Had they been taken away? If Jian Wushuang did not see his parents when he came back, would he not be furious? Quick, report this to the sect master. The two divine demon realm experts of the Great Tragedy sect immediately sent a message. In a remote void in the Witch Desert region, the gray-robed masked figure suddenly stopped. Zhui Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin were floating beside him. Zhui Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin were also a little frightened. My lord, why did you bring us here? Zhui Yunfeng could not help asking. Do you too have a son named Jianyi? The gray-robed masked man looked over. Jianyi? No, I only have two sons. One is Zhuopeng, and the other is Jian Wushuang. There is no one named Jianyi, Zhui Yunfeng said. Jian Wushuang? The gray-robed masked man's expression changed. He flipped his hand and took out a portrait. Is it the person in the portrait? Zhui Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin glanced at the person in the portrait. They immediately recognized that it was Jian Wushuang. Yes, it's him. The person in the portrait is my Shuang heir, Zhui Yunfeng said. That's right. You two wait here, the gray-robed masked man said coldly, but he did not explain much. Not long after. They're here. The gray-robed masked man suddenly raised his head. He saw two figures rushing over from the void not far away. One of the two people was also wearing a simple gray robe and a mask. As for the other person, it was Zhuo Bing. Bing heir. Zhui Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin were both shocked when they saw Zhuo Bing. Father, mother, you're here too? Zhuo Bing was also extremely surprised. She was clearly still cultivating in the ancient star hall just now, but a gray-robed masked man directly barged in and brought her here with effective means. The experts in her ancient star hall, including the strongest divine master, did not even have the slightest chance to struggle. Not long after Zhuo Bing arrived, Zhuopeng also arrived. He was also brought here by a gray-robed masked man. Since then, the four people closest to Jian Wushuang had all gathered. Everyone is here. Let's hurry up and leave this world. The three gray-robed masked men reached an agreement. Then, they immediately left with Zhui Yunfeng, Zhuo Bing, and Zhuopeng. Within the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the white-robed bald man and the will of the heavenly Tao worked together. In merely 2 hours, an enormous teleportation channel had already appeared in the sky. This spatial channel was enormous and boundless. After it was constructed entirely, only then did the will of the heavenly Tao completely dissipate. Soon after, numerous figures began to stride over from the other end of the spatial channel. A large number of figures appeared in the air the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. There were over 100 of them. However, terrifying was that the aura of each and every one of these people was exceptionally tyrannical. Any one of them was sufficient to cause the experts and disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion to tremble in fear. Just like the immortal saints of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, at this moment, all of them lowered their heads in fear. These people were all experts at the level of the immortal saints. In addition, there were 10 figures at the very front of the crowd. Their auras were towering and far surpassed the immortal saints. Those 10 people were actually the 10 supreme masters of laws. However, regardless of whether it was the immortal saints or the 10 masters of laws, they were all unable to conceal the existence of the white-robed bald man at the very front of the crowd. What the white-robed bald man had arrived at this moment was not his consciousness but his true body. Chapter 29-25, Empty buildings, go find him. Even if we have to turn this territory and the surrounding territories upside down, we must find that brat's existence. Not only him, but also his family members in this life. Everyone related to him must be arrested and interrogated. We must find him at all costs. Although the white-robed bald man was still gentle, his voice was as cold as ice. The 10 rule masters and hundreds of immortal saints behind him all nodded solemnly and followed the many experts to search at the fastest speed possible. In the void below, the consciousness clone of the Supreme Emotion Forgetting Valley's rule master watched this scene with great astonishment. As expected, the original body of the rule master has arrived, and he brought a total of 10 rule masters and hundreds of powerful Saint Realm experts. That kid is too powerful. The shadowy figure was secretly shocked. Yet, at the same time, the words that Jian Wushuang said when he left echoed in her mind. If Shuang heir loses a hair or suffers any grievance, it'll wipe out your entire clan from now on. At first, the shadowy figure did not take these words to heart, but now, she did not dare to underestimate them. I hope this Saint Stage Master can find and kill that kid. Otherwise, I'm afraid my Supreme Emotion Valley will not be able to rest in peace in the future. The shadowy figure sighed lightly, and her consciousness clone had already begun to dissipate slowly. As for Lung Rushuang, when the white-robed bald man set up the formation, she had already instructed the cold and arrogant woman to bring Lung Rushuang back to Supreme Emotion Valley. She did not want to get involved in what happened next, nor did she dare to get involved. The news of the arrival of the third firmament experts, the core of the absolute beginning divine realm, had created a storm that swept through the entire 9 realms of the Golden Crow. At first, the experts of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow were baffled. They even had some doubts. However, when the powerful immortal saints and even the legendary masters of laws started to roam the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, the experts of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow immediately believed them. Especially when they knew that these experts were all coming for Jian Yi, they were all shocked. After all, Jian Yi was only a divine master. A mere divine master had such great power that he had sent out more than 100 immortal saints and 10 rule masters from the third heaven to hunt him down. There was even news from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion that Jian Yi had violated the Heavenly Tao and was not tolerated by the Heavenly Tao. In the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the power of the Heavenly Tao had personally descended to kill Jian Wushuang, but he was saved at the last moment. This news also shocked countless people. In short, the name of Jian Yi once again resounded throughout the Golden Crow 9 realms. Crimson Rock Castle in the Pill Sun's sacred world. Dozens of immortal saints and several rule masters appeared in Crimson Rock Castle at the same time. The experts in Crimson Rock Castle felt the terrifying auras and were so scared that their legs went numb. Even the fort master of Crimson Rock Castle, Yin Sewer, who had already broken through to the immortal saint level, was stunned. Oh my God, she was an immortal saint after all. Although she had just broken through, her strength was still there. However, among the dozens of people in front of her, any one of them, even if it was just a vague aura, made her feel like she could not resist it. This was especially so for those at the very front. The aura of any one of them was enough to cause her to feel despair. Are you the realm lord of this world? At the very front of these experts, the white-robed bald man suddenly turned to look at Yin Sewer. His eyes flickered with a strange light. Before Yin Sewer could react, her gaze had already turned hollow. In the blink of an eye, Yin Sewer had been entirely controlled by the bewitching spirit. After that, she could no longer resist. Tell me everything you know about Jian Yi, the white-robed bald man ordered. Yes. Yin Sewer nodded dully and then told him everything she knew in detail. She told him everything, including Jian Wushuang's origin and the connection between him and Crimson Rock Castle. Yin Sewer also mentioned the Beiming Starfield and the Witch Desert region where Jian Wushuang's move was born. Witch Desert region. After learning that the Witch Desert region was where Jian Wushuang was born and that he had relatives in this life, the white-robed bald man's eyes lit up and he immediately left. In less than 6 hours, the white-robed bald man and the others had arrived in the Witch Desert region. However, when they arrived, they knew that Jian Wushuang's relatives had been taken away by 3 mysterious experts not long ago, and they were nowhere to be found. In other words, Jian Wushuang's relatives were all gone. All 3 of them are wearing simple gray robes and gray masks. They are members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. The white-robed bald man's heart sank. Bastards! The white-robed bald man was a little angry, but he was helpless. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was the most mysterious and terrifying in the absolute beginning divine realm. Their strength and methods were unfathomable. Moreover, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was not like the holy region that he controlled. His sacred region had an endless amount of resources within the third sky. Therefore, it could be said that it could control everything. However, outside the third heaven, his subordinates did not have much power. Just like in the Golden Crow 9 realms, he did not have the slightest bit of power involved. Therefore, if he wanted to mobilize experts, he could only temporarily open a space passage under the coordination of the will of the heavenly Tao and let the experts in the third heaven descend. However, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was different. No matter which territory in the absolute beginning divine realm, no matter which corner, as long as the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance wanted to, they could mobilize several experts above the immortal saint realm as soon as possible. This was what the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was good at. Its strength was spread across every corner of the divine beginning world. Although it was scattered and not completely concentrated, it was still extremely terrifying. Since that kid can ask the experts of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to transfer his family members, with the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's methods in the endless territories, they can casually transfer his family members to some hidden territories. Even I can't find out, and neither can he. The white-robed bald man's face had become a little ugly. If Jian Wushuang was on his own, he would not care if he was on the run with his own strength. As long as he knew Jian Wushuang's approximate location, he could join forces with the power of the will of heaven. He would try to find Jian Wushuang through all kinds of means. But if Jian Wushuang used the power of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, or if he joined the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, he would have nowhere to go. Chapter 29-26. The dust has settled in the void far away from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Jian Wushuang, as you instructed, I asked the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to move your loved ones as quickly as possible. Now, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance has sent news that your loved ones have gone to a very distant territory. I've also sent people to bring them here. I can guarantee that they won't be in danger. On the other end of the transmission token, a cold but heart-stirring voice was heard. Thank you, Miss Shower, Jian Wushuang said gratefully. You don't have to thank me. Just remember my favor. You and I are allies. In order to help you, I have paid a lot of money to get the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to act as quickly as possible so that you can move your relatives in time. But in the future, the things I want you to do for me will be much more difficult than this, Shower said. As long as I have enough strength, I will do my best, Jian Wushuang said. After breaking off the communication with Shower, Jian Wushuang was relieved to know that Shui Yunfeng and the others had been safely transferred. At the same time, he was secretly glad. He was glad that he had made an ally in the Witch Desert region, Shower. Shower had also experienced reincarnation. Her origin was a mystery and her background was huge. The key was that she was a friend and not an enemy of the 7-star mysterious sect. That was why Jian Wushuang agreed to form an alliance with her. Although the alliance was formed, neither side had encountered any difficulties before, so there was no communication. But this time, Jian Wushuang had to ask for help from this ally. And this Miss Shower did not disappoint him. Although Shower could not move his close relatives in a short period of time, she had asked the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. In this way, he could move his family members to a safe place in time. Father and mother have been moved. I have also sent a message to Shower to tell her to be careful. As long as those who are close to me are able to hide, for the time being, they should be fine. Jian Wushuang sighed lightly. This matter happened so suddenly that he had not been fully prepared. Therefore, it was somewhat urgent, but fortunately, there were no major changes. Now that everyone close to him in the 9 realms had been transferred and hidden, he was much more relieved. Next, he would certainly be ready to leave. But before he left, Jian Wushuang suddenly waved his hand, and a figure appeared in the void in front of him. This figure was Lung Rushuang's master, Elder Qin. Jian Yi, are you finally willing to let me out? Elder Qin stared at Jian Wushuang with a cold face. Jian Wushuang smiled. In the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, he had been fighting with people and even fighting against the Heavenly Tao because of the urgent situation. At that time, he had put all his attention on his opponent. He had forgotten that Elder Qin had been suppressed in his Blood Mountain sword. It was not until he had completely left the battlefield and arrived in the void that Jian Wushuang remembered. Elder Qin, I'm sorry to have made you suffer, Jian Wushuang said apologetically. Humph. Elder Qin snorted, but she looked at Jian Wushuang with a strange look. Although she had been suppressed in the Blood Mountain sword, she had clearly seen the scene outside. She had witnessed Jian Wushuang's battle strength at the true saint level. Even the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's biggest reliance, Saint Hong, could not stop him. This was just a small matter. Later, when facing 9 experts at the true saint level from the Supreme Emotion Valley, their divine bodies collapsed and their souls were completely destroyed under the attacks of the 9 true saints. However, they did not die. In the end, they even used shocking techniques. They swept the 9 true saints with 1 sword and killed 8 of them on the spot. The terrifying strength and techniques completely frightened her. In the end, the consciousness avatar of the Rule Master appeared, and the power of the will of the Heavenly Tao descended to perform the power of destruction. These were completely beyond what she could bear. Until now, Elder Qin still had not completely reacted, and her mind was still in a daze. She was very curious about what kind of secret Jian Wushuang had that caused the power of the will of heaven to descend. However, she did not intend to ask about it, and Jian Wushuang could not tell her. Elder Qin, there is one small thing I want to ask you, Jian Wushuang suddenly said. Speak. Elder Qin's voice was still cold. You are Shuang Heir, the master of Little Phoenix. You must know her background, right? Jian Wushuang asked. He was indeed curious about Lung Rushuang's background in this life. It could not be helped. Lung Rushuang's talent in this life was too high. Moreover, Lung Rushuang could not recognize him in this life. This made Jian Wushuang wonder if something had happened to her during the reincarnation process. Lung Heir's background, Elder Qin frowned slightly. He said, I don't know her background either. When I first met her, she was just a baby. She was just born not long ago in the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City. I happened to pass by a remote territory and found a large-scale heaven and earth phenomenon in that territory. I looked for the phenomenon and found her when she was a baby. At that time, there was no one around her. She just floated quietly in the void without crying. I saw that she was extraordinary, so I sent her back to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and let her grow up there. The phenomenon of heaven and earth? Jian Wushuang was a little surprised. If what Elder Qin said was true, then the Lung Rushuang in this life seemed to be born from heaven and earth. Yes, just like those unique special life forms in the divine beginning world, they were born naturally from heaven and earth. However, most of those special life forms had been polished and evolved over a long period of time before they gradually gained some intelligence and finally became alive. But Lung Rushuang, was she reincarnated? In addition, the special life forms in the absolute beginning divine world had extremely strong bloodlines and physiques. However, apart from her high comprehension ability and the fact that it was as easy as eating and drinking, Lung Rushuang did not have anything special about her bloodline? Forget it. Since Shuang Heir has already gone to the Supreme Emotion Forgetting Valley, I won't be able to see her for a while. I'll wait until I become stronger, then I'll slowly find the answer. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. Elder Qin, I'll see you again. After saying this, Jian Wushuang turned around and left. Moreover, the direction he went in was clearly the opposite of the 9 worlds of the Golden Crow. Chapter 29-27. Inkstone Realm. The primordial divine realm was vast and boundless. Not to mention the 3 heavens in the center, the endless territories beyond the 3 heavens were countless, and the territories they occupied were beyond imagination. After Jian Wushuang left the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, He used the space passage to pass through one territory after another. Thus, he passed through nearly 100 times on the way. It must be known that the cost of traveling from one territory to another territory was not small. On the contrary, the cost of traveling from one territory to another territory, which was separated by several or even more than 10 territories, was even greater. After traveling nearly 100 times, the cost that Jian Wushuang had to pay was no less than hundreds of thousands of saint elixirs. It was comparable to the entire wealth of an ordinary immortal saint. Jian Wushuang had teleported almost 100 times so that he could be further away from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, and the 3 experts of the Saint Realm could not find him. As a result, Jian Wushuang did not know which territory he was in and how far from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Let's ask someone first. Jian Wushuang smiled and rushed forward. In the vast sky, dark clouds covered the earth. Lightning snakes flickered in the dark clouds from time to time as if dragons were rolling in them. This was a barren plain, where a battle was going on. This battle was a massacre. A group of bandits suddenly targeted a team of experts with more than 10 people. More than 100 experts surrounded and killed them crazily. Among the group of over 10 experts, the strongest ones were only 2 peak divine masters. But, faced with the encirclement of over 100 experts, they were quickly defeated. Those bandits were also crazily chasing after these 2 people. Damn it. This isn't a place where bandits run rampant. So how did this group of bandits come here? A middle-aged man who wore a triangular helmet and was as strong as an ox roared as he fled. What bandits? This is a trap deliberately set up by someone to deal with us. If nothing goes wrong, it should be someone from our clan. If someone didn't inform us, how would these people know our whereabouts? The purple-haired older man shouted in a deep voice. Clan members, could it be? The strong middle-aged man was shocked. Other than that good brother of yours, who else would use that great formation to deal with us? The violet-haired older man shouted. The muscular middle-aged man's expression was somewhat unsightly. Let's flee. Let's see if we can escape with our luck. The violet-haired older man sighed softly. Behind him, over 100 experts were chasing closely, each of them brimming with killing intent. But right at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the air. The moment this figure appeared, a terrifying pressure came hurling down. The robust middle-aged man and the purple-haired older man immediately squatted in the air. The hundreds of experts chasing behind them also stopped. Everyone raised their heads in shock, looking at the young figure like a god in the air. This pressure is too strong. It's much stronger than Father was when he was alive. It's countless times stronger. Father was a high-level great divine master when he was alive, but compared to this person, he's like an ant. This person is very likely an immortal saint-level super expert. But, even if he's not, he's still the legendary unrivaled great divine master. The robust middle-aged man was shocked. This is our chance. The purple-haired elder was pleasantly surprised. He immediately bowed and said, Greetings, sir. What can I do for you? I want to ask you something. I hope you can answer me. Jian Wushuang looked down with a cold expression. Please ask, sir. The purple-haired elder was very respectful. Which realm is this? Jian Wushuang asked. Sir, this is the Inkstone realm, the purple-haired elder said. But at the same time, he immediately understood that the person in front of him should be an expert who had just arrived from the outside world. Inkstone realm. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. When he was free in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, he also saw the star fields map in the surrounding territories. The map was quite vast, but it did not mention the Inkstone realm. Obviously, his current location was very far away from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Let me ask you again, who are the realm masters of your Inkstone realm? Jian Wushuang asked again. My lord, there are 4 realm masters in the Inkstone realm, and each of them is a powerful immortal saint. I wonder who you are asking about? The purple-haired elder asked. 4 realm masters? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Usually, there was only 1 realm master in a realm, but there were 4 in the Inkstone realm. Jian Wushuang knew that the 4 realm masters would fight for their own interests. Which of the 4 realm masters is the closest to here? Jian Wushuang asked. I know. It's the Evergreen Realm Master. He lives in Evergreen Island, which is less than 10 days away, the purple-haired elder said. Give me the map of the star field. Jian Wushuang stretched out his hand. The purple-haired elder did not hesitate and immediately handed the most comprehensive map of the star field to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took it and immediately knew the location of the Evergreen Realm Master. He nodded and then looked at the hundreds of experts who had been chasing after the purple-haired elder and the middle-aged man. This deal ends here. You can leave. The hundreds of experts who were chasing after the purple-haired elder and the burly middle-aged man were extremely unwilling. However, after looking at Jian Wushuang, the leader of the hundreds of experts chose to endure. Let's go. The hundreds of experts immediately turned and left. Jian Wushuang's figure also disappeared. As for the purple-haired elder and the strong middle-aged man, they were overjoyed. Without any hesitation, they immediately set off and fled as fast as they could. Evergreen Island, the residence of the Evergreen Realm Lord. The Inkstone Realm was extremely vast, 3 to 4 times larger than an ordinary realm. Naturally, more experts were born. However, after a round of fighting, these experts gradually turned into 4 forces. Each of the 4 forces had a ruler, which was the 4 realm masters of the Inkstone Realm. Among the 4 realm masters, Evergreen Realm Master was just an ordinary one. He was not strong, only at the level of an immortal saint. He was far from being a true saint. Jian Wushuang had already arrived at Evergreen Island. Chapter 29-28. Inquiry. Evergreen Island was vast and majestic, with countless towering palaces and courtyards. Many cultivators gathered in front of the main gate of the island. Most of them had reached the great divine master level and were waiting there. They were here to see the Evergreen Realm Lord. Please inform him that Jian Yuan is here to pay a visit, Jian Wushuang said politely. Jian Yuan? The guard guarding the gate looked Jian Wushuang up and down. Jian Wushuang smiled and slightly revealed his divine power aura. His realm had reached the advanced Great Divine Master level. Under the cover of black rock, his divine power aura had reached the limit of a divine master, but he could not reach the immortal saint level. When Shen Shendaoist gave him the black rock, he said that the black rock could only cover the aura of immortal saint and below. Jian Wushuang gave the name Jian Yuan at the last minute. Even though the Inkstone realm was far away from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, Jian Wushuang still did not dare to be careless. He did not dare to use his real name or even the 2 aliases he used in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Jian Yi and Su Han, he did not dare to use them. Therefore, he could only choose another one. The guard also sensed Jian Wushuang's aura and was immediately startled. Wait a moment. I'll immediately report it. The guard immediately reported this matter to the butler, who was usually in charge of Evergreen Island. But, unfortunately, he was also a peak Great Divine Master. Jian Yuan? I've never heard of this name. I don't know where it came from. The Realm Lord is busy these days. He doesn't have time to see this and that. Go and tell him to wait outside for a few decades. The butler ordered. The guard immediately returned and conveyed the butler's message. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang could not help smiling bitterly, but then his body shook. Boom! A terrifying divine power directly covered the entire Evergreen Island. This divine power was earth-shaking and suppressed everything. In an instant, countless cultivators in Evergreen Island began to tremble. At the island's main entrance, the experts who were waiting quietly looked at Jian Wushuang in horror. The guard and the housekeeper who had walked out of the island were also terrified. Jian Wushuang could not be bothered with them. He just calmly looked at the place not far away. There, an aura slowly rose. May I know which friend has come to my Evergreen Island? A gentle voice slowly spread. A middle-aged man in a green robe with stubble slowly appeared in the void above. Seeing this middle-aged man in a green robe, many experts in Evergreen Island immediately showed respect. This middle-aged man in a green robe was the Realm Lord of Evergreen Island. He was also one of the 4 Realm Lords of the Inkstone Realm, the Evergreen Realm Lord. Jian Yuan greets the Evergreen Realm Lord, Jian Wushuang said politely. Yes, a divine master? The Evergreen Realm Lord looked at Jian Wushuang in astonishment. He had sensed the divine power, which was why he had shown himself. But he had never expected that it was only a divine master who was emitting the divine power. Although Jian Wushuang was only a divine master, his casual standing gave the Evergreen Realm Lord great pressure. As a result, the Evergreen Realm Lord did not dare to underestimate him. This divine master is not simple. This was the first thought that came to the Evergreen Realm Lord's mind. My friend, let's have a chat on the island. The Evergreen Realm Lord invited him. Thank you. Jian Wushuang thanked him and immediately followed the Evergreen Realm Lord to the center of the island. In the center of a magnificent palace, the Evergreen Realm Lord ordered some delicacies and wine for Jian Wushuang to enjoy. You are not from the Inkstone Realm, are you? The Evergreen Realm Lord asked casually. Have you noticed, Realm Lord? Jian Wushuang smiled. Of course, I know many powerful divine masters in the Inkstone Realm. Many of them have been accepted by me. You are so powerful, but I have never heard of you. So, naturally, you are not from the Inkstone Realm, the Evergreen Realm Lord said with a smile. Indeed, I'm from another realm. As for why I came to the Inkstone Realm today, I have something to ask you, Evergreen Realm Lord, Jian Wushuang said. You can tell me, my young friend. The Evergreen Realm Lord looked at him. You've been famous for so many years and are very knowledgeable. Have you ever heard of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? Jian Wushuang asked. Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? The Evergreen Realm Lord was stunned, but his expression immediately turned solemn. I have naturally heard of the famous Heaven-Cleaving Alliance in the divine beginning world. I even yearn for it. However, it's not easy to join the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. If that's the case, do you know where the nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is located in the nearby territories, Your Excellency? Jian Wushuang asked. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was recognized as the #1 alliance in the absolute beginning divine world. Its power was spread over every territory and every corner of the absolute beginning divine world. To achieve this, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance needed to have a spatial channel to connect the corners of each territory and had to have secret strongholds in those territories. These strongholds were known as nests in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. For example, there was a secret nest around the territory of the Golden Crow 9 Realms. All the members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance in the Golden Crow 9 Realms and the surrounding territories would go to that secret nest if they wanted to take on missions. Of course, this was also what Bone Emperor told him. He had a Heaven-Cleaving token, and he was powerful enough. So he wanted to join the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Although originally, he wanted to wait for Lung Rushuang's matter to come to an end before he went to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's nest in the surrounding territories of the Golden Crow 9 Realms. After passing the Heaven-Cleaving token to participate in the assessment of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, he officially became a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. However, he had to flee from the territory of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow and come to the Inkstone Realm, which was an unknown distance away from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Here, Jian Wushuang did not know where the secret nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was, so he could only invite people to inquire about it. That was the main reason why he came to look for the Evergreen Realm Master. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's lair. The Evergreen Realm Lord frowned slightly. My young friend, as far as I know, there is no Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's lair in the Inkstone Realm. However, I have vaguely heard that there is one in the territory near the Inkstone Realm. However, I don't know the exact location of the lair. After all, I have never really dealt with the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. You don't know? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly, but he was not surprised. However, although I don't know the location of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's secret nest, someone in my Inkstone Realm does. The Evergreen Realm Lord suddenly changed the topic. Chapter 29-29, Shui Dong King, who is it? Jian Wushuang immediately looked at the Evergreen Realm Lord. Shui Dong King. The Evergreen Realm Lord smiled. Shui Dong King used to be an invincible divine master in the Inkstone realm. When he was a divine master, his comprehension of rules and Tao had already reached the level of an immortal saint. He even created an absolute art at the level of a saint. Later on, he paid a price to obtain a Heaven-Cleaving token and passed the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's test to become a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Jian Wushuang's eyes immediately lit up. Since Shui Dong King was a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, he must know the location of the secret lair of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance around the Inkstone realm. Where is Shui Dong King now? Jian Wushuang asked. Don't worry, my friend. The Evergreen Realm Lord said indifferently, Shui Dong King is in the Inkstone realm. It's not difficult for you to find him. Just ask a slightly stronger Great Divine Master and you'll know. However, Shui Dong King has a very strange temper. If you want him to tell you the location of the secret lair of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, you'll have to go through a lot of trouble. Oh! Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He has a weird temper. How weird is that? It's simple. He likes to fight. He's a battle maniac. He only respects experts who are stronger than him or are recognized by him. It's hard for ordinary experts to meet him or to befriend him because he won't talk to you at all. Instead, he takes the initiative and is very enthusiastic when facing those who are stronger than him and can be recognized by him. My friend, if you want to see him, you have to be prepared in advance, said the Evergreen Realm Lord. Prepared? You mean fight with him? Jian Wushuang asked curiously. Of course. You have to fight with him and get his approval before he will talk to you. In addition, he has deliberately set up a series of powerful means in his residence. These means are so powerful that no ordinary person can break in. In other words, you have to go through the means he has set up over the years before you can really see him, said the Evergreen Realm Lord. So harsh. Jian Wushuang was stunned. They had met each other not long ago. If Shui Dong King did not want to meet him, he could just disappear. However, he had deliberately set up many means in his residence. No matter who it was, they had to break through all the means to meet him. Shui Dong King is indeed eccentric, but it should not be difficult for me to break through his means with my strength, Jian Wushuang said. Don't be too confident, my friend. I forgot to tell you that Shui Dong King has made a breakthrough to the Immortal Saint level not long ago. His battle strength is much stronger than mine, so his tricks are naturally more powerful, said the Evergreen Realm Lord. A breakthrough? Jian Wushuang was stunned, but then he shrugged helplessly and said, No matter what, I have to try. Thank you, Evergreen Realm Lord. Goodbye. Jian Wushuang stood up and left after saying his thanks. Evergreen Realm Lord looked at Jian Wushuang's departure with a strange expression. Jian Yuan is not only in the Inkstone realm but also in the surrounding territories. I've never heard of him. However, the pressure he gives me is very great. It's even greater than the pressure from the other 3 realm lords in the Inkstone realm. Where did this expert come from? Did he really come to my Inkstone realm just for the secret lair of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? The Evergreen Realm Lord pondered for a moment before shaking his head, no longer thinking about it. On top of a smooth cliff, there was a huge scarlet castle. This red castle was extremely famous in the entire Inkstone realm. After all, that Shui Dong King who had already broken through to the Immortal Saint realm and could threaten the 4 realm lords lived here. Around the scarlet castle, a layer of scarlet mist surrounded the castle, flowing normally like a scarlet river. From time to time, faint blood-colored bubbles would appear. In the deepest part of the castle. 7th young master, go back. The clan leader misses you every day. Even if you still have some resentment toward what happened back then, it has been so many years. No matter what you do, you still have to care about the relationship between father and son. A white-haired old man stood below the steps. He looked eagerly at a blood-haired, blood-robed man above him. That blood-haired, blood-robed man was none other than the Shui Dong King. The relationship between father and son? Hee, how laughable. Back then, he complained that my cultivation speed was slow and that I didn't live up to expectations. When he beat and scolded me countless times, I could still understand and still be able to consider the relationship between father and son. But back then, I accidentally provoked a slightly more powerful clan, and he directly tied me up and sent me to the other party's residence. When I was at the other party's disposal, did he ever consider the relationship between father and son? Back then, if it wasn't for my intelligence and the fact that I knew how to endure humiliation and burden, and that I was finally able to survive under the endless torture of that Fong clan, did he ever miss me at that time? Did he ever come to visit me? I'm afraid that at that time, I had already become an abandoned child in his hands in order to quell the fury of that Fong clan, right? At that time, he did not care about my life or death at all. Now that I've become stronger, he misses me. Does he have to care about the relationship between father and son? What a joke! What a big joke! Shui Dong King sneered, but his voice was unusually cold. Scram. Go back and tell him that I've already broken off my relationship with him. Tell him to stop bothering me in the future. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Shui Dong King waved his sleeve, a terrifying aura that had already reached the level of an undying saint directly pressed down on the white-haired old man. The white-haired old man's expression changed drastically, and he forcefully endured the pressure. He continued, "Seventh young master, the clan has encountered a great crisis this time. No matter what grudges you have with the clan leader, I beg you, on account of the fact that you share the same bloodline, no matter what, you must lend a hand." Lend a hand? If I don't personally exterminate them, it's already very worthy of them. Shui Dong King snorted coldly, but he was already completely enraged in his heart. He waved his hand, and a majestic force immediately acted on the white-haired elder. The white-haired elder was severely injured. He spat out a mouthful of blood and shot backward in a sorry state. In the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared in front of Shui Dong King. Although the white-haired elder was sent flying, Shui Dong King's anger did not completely disappear in the palace. The entire palace was still under great pressure and did not calm down for a long time. At this time, Jian Wushuang arrived in front of the Scarlet Castle. Chapter 2930, Forced Entry, Just before Jian Wushuang arrived at the Scarlet Castle, he saw the white-haired elder walk out of the castle in a sorry state. The white-haired elder's face was obviously a little ugly. The white-haired elder naturally saw Jian Wushuang. "Your Excellency, are you here to visit Shui Dong King?" The white-haired elder looked at Jian Wushuang. "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded. "If that's the case, I advise you to leave first and come back soon," the white-haired elder said. "Why?" Jian Wushuang asked, puzzled. "Shui Dong King is currently in a rage. It's too risky to visit him at this time. With his way of doing things, if he doesn't like you later, he might directly kill you," the white-haired elder said. "Oh, there's such a thing?" Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and then smiled. "Let's try. If he wants to kill me, we have to see if he has the ability to do so." After saying that, Jian Wushuang flew directly into the Scarlet Castle. Seeing this, the white-haired elder was stunned. This man wants to break into the residence of the seventh young master? Is he courting death? Now, 99% of the experts in the Inkstone realm knew that Shui Dong King had become an immortal saint. His battle strength was probably even stronger than that of the four realm lords. The techniques he had deployed in his castle were also very powerful. Even ordinary immortal saints would not dare to break into it, but Jian Wushuang. From the moment he rushed out, his aura was revealed. He was obviously a divine master. How dare a divine master barge into the castle where Shui Dong King lives? The white-haired elder thought that Jian Wushuang was tired of living. But suddenly, boom! A violent boom suddenly resounded in the void. The white-haired elder's eyes immediately widened. He saw that the layer of a red river surrounding the Scarlet Castle had wrapped the entire castle tightly. But now, in the middle of the Scarlet River, a huge hole had appeared. This hole was too big, and it was obvious that it had been forcefully blasted open by someone. After this hole appeared, the entire Scarlet River collapsed. He actually broke through seventh young master's defensive measures on the castle with a single strike? The white-haired old man had a look of disbelief on his face. At the same time, in the deepest part of the Scarlet Castle, Shui Dong King, who had not completely calmed down, also sensed the commotion outside and immediately raised his head. My first attack was actually defeated in a frontal attack without any warning. Was it defeated in one blow? Shui Dong King's eyes narrowed slightly, and he immediately rose up. Jian Wushuang grinned as he looked at the collapsed Scarlet River. According to Evergreen Realm Lord, I don't need to say anything to Shui Dong King. I just need to have absolute strength to convince him or make him acknowledge me. In that case, there's no need for me to be so polite. Jian Wushuang raised his head and looked ahead. He could vaguely see layers of restrictive moves. The one that had just been defeated was only the first layer of the Scarlet Castle, which was relatively weak. There were still 3 more layers of measures waiting for him. Only after passing through all the remaining 3 layers of measures could he enter the center of the Scarlet Castle and see the king. Boom! Jian Wushuang immediately burst into speed and shot forward into the void. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang encountered the second move of the Scarlet Castle. Break! Jian Wushuang still threw out a brutal punch. This punch contained a terrifying divine power as if it could break the world. It hit the first move of the restriction in front of him, which shook crazily and then collapsed in the next moment. The second move has also been broken, and it's still just a single strike. The white-haired elder was even more shocked when he saw this. However, Jian Wushuang continued to rush forward. Soon, the third move appeared in front of him. It was also a great restriction. However, the power of this restriction was obviously much stronger than the previous 2. Facing this restriction, Jian Wushuang no longer fought with his bare hands. Instead, he directly took out the Blood Mountain sword. With a casual slash, he activated his boundless sword art, which was 33,000 feet tall. A huge sword light struck the restriction, and it was instantly cut open. Then, Jian Wushuang encountered the fourth and final restriction. It was still a slash, but it was extremely sharp. With a mournful sword light, it forcefully cut open a gap in the restriction. Jian Wushuang passed through the gap and entered the center of the Scarlet Castle. Outside the castle, the white-haired elder was a little stunned. A divine master easily defeated the 4 restrictions placed on the castle by the 7th young master. Who is this divine master? The white-haired elder exclaimed. In the void at the center of the Scarlet Castle, the figure of Shui Dong King floated there. His eyes flashed with a glimmer as he stared at Jian Wushuang. Divine Master? Shui Dong King was shocked. He had personally set up these 4 restrictions, so he knew how powerful they were. Even an ordinary immortal saint like the 4 realm lords of the Inkstone realm would not be able to break in so easily, let alone a divine master. But this divine master had actually broken in. Even I, back when I was at the divine master realm, wouldn't have such terrifying combat strength. This person, the anger on Shui Dong King's face had completely disappeared. What replaced it was excitement, a thick sense of excitement at the same time. A shocking battle intent rose up. Just as the Evergreen Realm Lord had said, this Shui Dong King was a battle maniac. What he liked the most were fierce battles, especially when he fought with experts. However, the Inkstone realm was too small. The 4 known realm lords were only ordinary immortal saints. Before he had made the breakthrough, he was still in awe of them. But now, he did not care about their strength at all. Therefore, even if the 4 realm lords came personally, they could not make him excited. But now, Jian Wushuang's appearance had aroused his long-lost fighting spirit, which was exceptionally strong. Who are you? Shui Dong King asked excitedly. Jian Yuan. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, After all, this is your residence, so it's not convenient for us to fight. How about we go to the nearby void? Okay. Shui Dong King nodded without hesitation and immediately went to the void next door with Jian Wushuang. Chapter 2931. Jian Wushuang and Shui Dong King. The void near the Scarlet Castle was above a vast sea. The endless sea water was flowing slowly, and the entire sea surface seemed very calm. But this calm was quickly broken by someone. Shui Dong King, I asked you to make the first move. Jian Wushuang stood there and said grandly. Ha, you're so confident. In that case, I want stand on ceremony. Shuedong King laughed loudly and immediately took out a long saber. A majestic aura rose from his body. Shuedong King suddenly rushed forward. At the same time, his body split into two, turning into two identical figures. Well, this is... Jian Wushuang could not help being surprised. When he saw the two figures, Jian Wushuang immediately understood that they were just illusions that Shuedong King had used a special method. However, these illusions were extraordinary, and even he could not tell which one was real. It was not until Shuedong King appeared in front of him and raised the long saber in his hand that Jian Wushuang was able to determine which one was real. Buzz. Shuedong King struck out with his saber straight. The saber light was dazzling and extremely domineering. It immediately formed a huge saber river in the void and spread toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang only smiled faintly. Divine power surged in his right hand. He raised the Blood Mountain sword and directly faced the long saber. When the long saber and the Blood Mountain sword collided head-on, an extremely domineering power contained in the long saber immediately came into effect. This power, Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He staggered, but he could not help taking a few steps back. The long saber took advantage of the situation and slashed toward Jian Wushuang's head. Jian Wushuang was surprised, but he immediately dodged to the side and dodged the saber. Your strength is not bad. Jian Wushuang looked at Shuedong King. Shuedong King's strength was indeed impressive. In that moment of collision, an extremely powerful force came from the long saber. It was much stronger than that of an ordinary immortal saint. Although it was not as strong as a true saint, the gap between them was very small. Shuedong King is indeed worthy of being a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance at the Divine Master level. Now that he has reached the immortal saint level, his strength has soared again. Although he is not comparable to a true saint, he is definitely a top false saint, Jian Wushuang thought. There were two kinds of immortal saints. False saint and true saint. The false saint was the most common type of immortal saint. Although his cultivation had indeed reached the immortal saint level, he had not truly mastered the immortal body and could not fully display his strength. True saint, on the other hand, had completely mastered the immortal body and could perfectly display his strength. Such a true saint was much more powerful than a false saint. For example, the immortal saints in the Golden Crow 9 realms were almost all false saints with different strengths. As for true saints, there were only two of them. One was the Bone Emperor, and the other was the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's Saint Hong. Moreover, even if they were true saints, there were differences in strength. Moreover, in the absolute beginning divine realm, true saints were divided into 7 levels, which represented 7 different levels. These 7 different levels could be based on their understanding of laws and Tao. There were also unique skills that showed that Saint Hong was only a rank 1 true saint. As for Bone Emperor, the publicly acknowledged number 1 expert in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, there were rumors that he had long reached the pinnacle of a rank 1 true saint. There were also rumors that he had broken through to become a rank 2 true saint, but no one knew how he did it. A top false saint is indeed very powerful in the Inkstone realm. No wonder the Evergreen Realm Lord was a little afraid of Shuedong King. Jian Wushuang chuckled. The Evergreen Realm Lord and the other 3 Realm Lords in the Inkstone realm were only false saints and had average strength. If it was a one-on-one fight, no one would be a match for the Shuedong King. A divine master was able to block one of my strikes. You are qualified to be called a monster just because of that. Next, the bloodthirsty smile on the Shuedong King's face was followed by his figure floating out again. 2 identical figures appeared at the same time. Bush. The 2 figures flashed one after another and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang in the blink of an eye. Shuedong King raised the long saber in his hand again and swung it at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang did not show any weakness. He had exerted his divine power and swordsmanship to the fullest. Clang, clang, clang. The low sound of metal colliding rang out continuously. Blood Mountain sword and the long saber collided again and again. Each time, a large amount of power swept out and affected the sea surface below. Huge waves immediately rose up from the calm sea surface. Each of these huge waves was over 100 feet tall and incomparably majestic. The entire sea seemed to be roaring and shrill due to the fierce battle between the two. Jian Yuan, is this all you've got? Shui Dong King shouted in a low voice during the fierce battle. He did not use his full strength, but even so, he still had an absolute advantage in the battle with Jian Wushuang, which made him somewhat dissatisfied. Upon hearing Shui Dong King's words, Jian Wushuang could not help but smile. After all, the opponent is a top false saint, and he is infinitely close to a true saint. If I don't use my secret skill or some other means, it will be a little difficult to fight. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. The star power in his body had been directly activated. The 7-star secret skill had been used. This secret skill instantly raised his realm from advanced Great Divine Master to peak Great Divine Master, and his divine powers suddenly soared. Shui Dong King, now you and I will fight again. Jian Wushuang grinned and moved forward. The Blood Mountain sword suddenly turned into a bolt of lightning and slashed out. This sword move was extremely swift and fierce. Ha! Shui Dong King immediately sensed that Jian Wushuang's sword move seemed to have increased in power. A trace of excitement flashed in his eyes, and he immediately brandished his long saber to meet it. Clang! There was a loud sound, but this time, both of them retreated at the same time. Shui Dong King's right hand, which was holding the long saber tightly, was still a little troublesome. How can a divine master be so powerful? Shui Dong King was shocked. He did not know that Jian Wushuang had only used the 7-star secret skill. He had not used the Divine Punishment Expert or the 9 Luminaries star armor. He had not really guided the sword essence in the Blood Mountain sword. Even so, Jian Wushuang's divine power was no weaker than his. Once Jian Wushuang went all out, his battle strength would be at the true saint level. Although he was not the best among the first stage true saints, he was definitely not weak. Chapter 2932, Approval, Shui Dong King, let's fight again. Jian Wushuang laughed and suddenly waved his hand, causing streams of black light to appear in the void in front of him. These streams of black light were 18 underworld blood divine swords with astonishing auras. As soon as the 18 dark blood divine swords appeared, under Jian Wushuang's control, they immediately fused together perfectly at the fastest speed. Buzz! A faint humming sound, like the sound of a sword, slowly sounded in the world. Although the sound was not loud, it was extremely strange. In an instant, it overshadowed the roar of the sea below. In the void, a brand new black divine sword that was only 2 meters long but extremely wide appeared out of thin air. The moment this 2-meter-long black divine sword appeared, the world around it suddenly turned gray. This gray-white seemed to have sunk into an endless sea of snow. There was a vast expanse of whiteness everywhere, and the only black color in this vast expanse of whiteness was the black divine sword in the center of the void. The black magic sword had become the sole focus of the world. Go! Jian Wushuang spat out a word, and the black magic sword instantly turned into a bolt of lightning and shot toward the direction of Shui Dong King. The black magic sword pierced through the void, but before it could get close, the violent sound of wind breaking caused Shui Dong King's expression to change. Shui Dong King did not have the time to think too much. He instantly brandished the long blade in his hand. This long blade was like a river of stars hanging in the sky, forcefully tearing a path through the vast white world. The void trembled. In the blink of an eye, the black divine sword collided with Shui Dong King's long blade. The power of the 4th stage of the reincarnation sword formation, the world of ice and snow, also completely erupted at this moment. Boom! Boom! Shui Dong King felt his arm go slightly numb, and he immediately retreated. As for the black magic sword, although it was not far away, it only shook slightly before it continued to shoot out. At the same time, Jian Wushuang's body also flew out in a strange manner. Boom! Boom! The black magic sword flew toward Shui Dong King again and again in an extremely tyrannical manner. Jian Wushuang also displayed his swordsmanship, displaying it around Shui Dong King again and again. The speed of his swordsmanship was extremely fast, and the power was also extremely powerful. With the combination of the two, Shui Dongwang was completely suppressed. In just a moment, "Stop, stop!" Shui Dong King hurriedly shouted to stop. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and stopped what he was doing. Seeing this, Shui Dong King let out a sigh of relief. Then he looked at Jian Wushuang with a burning gaze. "It's incredible that a divine master can be so powerful. Jian Yuan, I rarely admire you, but I have to admire you today. It's amazing that a divine master can fight with me to this extent." Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He knew that although Shui Dong King had asked him to stop, it did not mean that he had won. He could see that Shui Dong King had held back. Some of his powerful secret skills and trump cards should not have been used. If he went all out, his battle strength should be comparable to an ordinary first-rank true saint. However, it was clear that although Shui Dong King liked to fight, he would not use his trump card to fight with others for no reason. "Shui Dong King, I'm here to ask you something," Jian Wushuang said directly. He had already proven his strength, and it was obvious that Shui Dong King had approved of him. Therefore, Jian Wushuang could state his purpose of coming here directly. "You must be asking about the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, right?" Shui Dong King looked at Jian Wushuang. "You know." Jian Wushuang was stunned. He had come for the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, but he had not told Shui Dong King before. He had only told the Evergreen Realm Lord. Could it be that the Evergreen Realm Lord had sent him a message before? "I don't know, but I guessed it." Shui Dong King smiled. Shui Dong King, have a bad temper and don't have a good relationship with people. Usually, those who come to see me have more or less asked for my help. But with your strength, you don't need me to do anything for you. Besides, you're only a divine master, but a divine master is so powerful. You're a monster. A monster like you came to see me only because of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Indeed, I'm here for the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Jian Wushuang nodded and admitted directly. "I've just arrived in the Inkstone Realm. I don't know if there is a nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance around the Inkstone Realm, so I came to ask." "There is a nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance nearby." Shui Dong King nodded slightly. "This nest is not too far from the Inkstone Realm. If you want to go, I can show you the way. However, not everyone can enter the nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Only the official members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, or you have a Heaven-Cleaving token." "I have a Heaven-Cleaving token." Jian Wushuang took out his Heaven-Cleaving token. Seeing the Heaven-Cleaving token, Shui Dong King raised his eyebrows. "It's easy with the Heaven-Cleaving token. I can take you there directly. When do you plan to go?" Shui Dong King asked. "Let's go now." Jian Wushuang said. "Okay, let's go. I haven't been to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's lair for a long time. I don't know if there are any missions suitable for me." Shui Dong King smiled and led the way. Jian Wushuang naturally followed. On the way, Shui Dong King and Jian Wushuang chatted casually. "Brother Jian, you're a divine master, but your battle strength is so amazing. You should be very famous, but I've explored the surrounding territories of the Inkstone Realm, but I've never heard of your name." Shui Dong King asked. "To tell you the truth, I don't come from the border. My hometown is quite far from here, so of course, you don't know," Jian Wushuang said. "Is that so?" Shui Dong King understood. "Since you have the Heaven-Cleaving token, it should be easy for you to pass the assessment of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance with your strength. However, you still have to be careful. After all, everything is in case. The assessment of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is usually very harsh and even a little unusual." "Oh." Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Shui Dong King was an official member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and had really participated in the assessment of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Since he said so, Jian Wushuang naturally would not be careless. "By the way, Brother Jian, when you arrive at the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance later, before you participate in the assessment, someone will ask you if you have been recommended." When that time comes, Shui Dong King had not finished his words. Jian Wushuang said directly, "Shui Dong King, I'm sorry. Not long ago, I promised someone that I would treat him as a referral. That's why he gave me the heaven-cleaving token. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.